really cleared out. He really gave everything on the phone that time.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Are they all together here?
No.
Yeah.
Are the rest back together?
Yeah, they caught him on the climb.
Yeah, okay.
Not a very big peloton now, is it?
Oh, there's Heinrich Haussler. And now Pat Shaw sitting on the front end of the main peloton after having been in the break off. Sure. You want to do this practice throw? Gator, do you want to do the practice throw? There it is, Scott McGrory.
Yep, is that better?
The race is almost all back together, just Will Clark off the front. The atmosphere is building on the mountain. Here's Scott McGrory in the thick of the action.
Guys, the race is really starting to heat up here at Mount Buninyong. Also, the atmosphere. The crowds are really behind the riders that are coming up. Cowbells are ringing. Just looking at the cars coming past now because the peloton have already gone through. Will Clark solo off the front. And this crowd is just amazing. The DJs are pumping, the music's happening. I can smell the barbecues. Probably a distraction for the riders, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it looks like Will Clark from Drapac is looking very strong out in front. And all the pressure has gone back onto the Avanti Racing team to try and close down that rider, that lead rider. Is that all right? Yep. Oh, say that again. Oh, okay. How long was that?
Descending nicely towards the Fiskin Road and then back into the home straight. A great ride from Will Clark. Drapac Cycling had 4 riders in the breakaway today. They had the most numbers. They've still got a man up the road. And we saw
They're showing now. On 12, going out on 13 when they come on. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There'll be 6 to go.
Jersey classification is so you can It's a good lead there by Will Clark, but I'm sure we're going to see with only 6 laps to go, there's going to be some more attacks up the road. Thanks, mate. 6 laps to go, and when they come through, who's it going to be to fire the first shot now? They're all back together, except for Will Clark, the lone leader. It means Drapac don't have to chase, they only have to follow. I'll tell you what, last year it was a race of attrition. This year, it's going to be a smash fest.
It's going to be a smash fest. It's already happening because the last update we just had, they turned into gear over the back of the course and the peloton is flying. That was what the commissaire has just said on race radio. The peloton is flying. They are moving along now. So expect to see more attacks happening. I cannot imagine Orica-GreenEDGE just riding around now for 5 laps, waiting for the last lap for the likes of Evans and Port to attack. When they've got the numbers, they have to utilise the numbers. So do the other teams. That's the benchmark. The benchmark in this race is Port, Evans, maybe Dennis and Michael Rogers, and maybe I've missed 1 or 2 others. For the rest of them, to try and climb with that calibre of riders on Mount Buninyong after 18 laps is going to be very tough. So expect to see attacks happen, and expect, I think, another break to form very soon.
Well, Orica-GreenEDGE have had their way with this championship for the last couple of years. The teams, the riders that come here with not as many riders have always been outgunned. Not so much outclassed though. But however, today we're going in, they're going to go into 6 laps to go. Evans is alongside Port, who's alongside Rogers, is alongside Clark. We've got other riders there. Cameron Worth is there. Dave Tanner is there. These are professionals that we don't hear as much about when they're in Europe. There are such good bike riders, and they're all up for the national championship. Another guy we haven't talked about, Adam Hansen, the man who comes here every year with no teammates. He is one of the most popular bike riders in this country. I tell you what, could be Adam Hansen's day.
Adam Hansen, and you know, we talked about him at the start, but not since. Still on off. Still on off. Took out the Criterium on Wednesday night. One of very few riders to say he's going to have the pleasure of getting over the wheel of Caleb Ewan. Incidentally, Caleb Ewan is still in there. Could this be a year that we actually see a sprint finish?
One of my proudest moments in cycling to be Australian champion. It's just fantastic.
While most sports are about trophies or premierships, cycling is about winning jerseys. And on a torturous course on the outskirts of Ballarat, the coveted green and gold jersey is up for grabs.
It's a dream come true.
It's the most prestigious one-day race on Australian soil.
Ewan on the line.
I just reckon it's the best looking jersey in the bunch.
The reward is a big one. Wear the national colours all season long, all over the globe. Be a symbol of Australian cycling every time you race.
Cadel Evans hits the line.
For Cadel Evans, who rode his first national championships on a mountain bike, this is his final chance at the Australian road title.
The crowd and so on, the enthusiasm, just fantastic race.
And there'll be spectators 10 deep up the climb of Mount Buninyong to cheer him on. The Mount Buninyong climb defines the race. It's brutal, feared by most, relished by a select few.
Listen to the crowd now as he hits the hill for the last time.
And while it's the well-worn cliche that the riders make the race, this course ensures a world-class rider crosses the line first to be crowned Australian champion.
He shakes his head in disbelief.
Who will be the Australian champion in 2015? Hello and welcome to the 2015 Mars Cycling Australia Road National Championships. It's the green and gold rush in Ballarat, or more appropriately, Buninyong, just on the outskirts. I'm Matthew Keenan, joined by Phil Liggett. Phil, the atmosphere, it's starting to build.
Totally magic. It should really be a sad occasion. The last time Cadel Evans will ever ride a national championship for Australia, yet he is the man at the start line. A wonderful atmosphere, and all of his rivals throughout these past years are here as well, with the newcomers like Caleb Ewan. A presentation by Buninyong Primary just to say farewell to Cadel. Michael Rogers, 3 times a world champion, racing against him for the last time. This is a magical occasion and a great atmosphere.
There's plenty of people out there that want to spoil the fairy tale ending for Cadel Evans. Last
Last year it was Simon Gerrans who got the win. Cadell was second and Richie Porte was third. What a race it was.
It was a great race. There are no favours in professional cycling. Richie Porte is back as a favourite. He'd love to go better than the third place he crossed the line. Sadly, no Simon Gerrans, out with a broken collarbone. But look who was second last year, Caleb Evans. He'd love to take the final step up onto the podium.
But Richie wants to spoil it. He's a Tasmanian. He was the bronze medalist last year. He's the current Australian time trial champion. But it was in Tasmania that you really first saw Cadell and saw him shine and realised just how good he could be.
It was. In those days he represented his mountain bike sponsor, Volvo, at the time. And he was a mountain biker showing the top professionals how to climb Mount Wellington. And he won up there. And afterwards I said to him, I said, Cadell, you could one day win the Tour de France. And my goodness me, Matthew, that's exactly what he went on to do.
That was in 1998 that he won the Tour of Tasmania. It was then in 2011 that he won the Tour de France. Twice ranked #1 in the world in mountain biking. He's now running the national championships for the last time. His first was in 1992, but there's plenty that want to prevent the fairy tale ending. Can Cadell Evans do it? Among those trying to stop him, Steele von Hoff. He's won the criterium. That was on Wednesday. He's been a bronze medalist in the road race. He wants gold. Richie Porte, the time trial champion. Cameron Meyer, his brother Travis, has been a winner here. Michael Rogers, a triple world champion in the individual time trial. Rowan Dennis, maybe not, because he'll be a teammate of Cadell Evans and working for him. Luke Durbridge, he's done the double in the past. He'll be one of the key riders for Orica-GreenEDGE. Jack Bobridge, another former winner. Heinrich Haussler, a man who's won a stage at the Tour de France, possibly a contender today. And Simon Clark, another one of the protected riders from Orica-GreenEDGE. Here's a look at the course around Mount Buninyong. It's 10.2 kilometres, starting in the heart of town. It makes a quick left-hand turn onto the Midland Highway, and that's where the climbing starts. It's also on the Midland Highway where they have the feed zone. Onto Mount Buninyong, they then crest the top of the climb, but the descent doesn't really get underway until they reach Fiskin Road, and then it's a rapid plummet down towards Geelong Road, and they turn towards the finish. 18 laps, 183.6 kilometres of racing. Scott McGrory, he's down with a few of the big contenders.
Richie, you showed how good your form is in the time trial the other day. You must be really confident coming into the road race.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm in good condition, but hopefully I didn't show too much. But, you know, I guess I'm not going to be flying under the radar here today, but I guess, you know, never going to be. But I mean, there's also some other strong guys here like Cadell, Mick Rogers, and some of the NRS guys as well. So it's going to be a tough one, I think.
Caleb, last year's under-23 Australian road champion, now first time up in the elite category. How are you feeling? You must be a little bit nervous.
Yeah, a little bit nervous, but really excited. You know, it's going to be quite fun, I think, racing through the massive crowds up there on Mount Buninyong. And yeah, I'm more excited than nervous, to be honest.
Can I squeeze some of the tactics from Orica-GreenEDGE out of you? What's going to happen today?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, hopefully we get a guy in the break, and you know we've got guys to cover most options, so yeah, we're pretty confident.
Cadell, big day for Australian cycling and a big day for you, getting closer to retirement, but still some hard racing to come.
Yeah, it's I'll focus more on racing well and doing the best I can. That's always the case. No point in starting a race if you don't want to do well in it. But also a big part of for me, come here, enjoy it, be part of the scene, be part of the ambience and so on. And hopefully the weather holds off so we can all have a good day.
Well, you're here last year, you got to see what it's really like on this circuit. So how do you feel coming into today? Have you done enough preparation?
Yeah, training's been okay. Probably, well, I'd say good. This year, big difference. Lesser riders from Orica, more riders from Sky and BMC. So in Rowan and Campbell, I got some really, real strong support there. And of course, two's much better than none.
Which individuals will you be looking out for today?
Of course, I think Richie, with his results in the time trials, really shown that he's one to watch out for. I'm interested. I think Michael Rogers is probably someone who's flown under the radar a little bit. And then, of course, from Orica, I think they'll have 2 or 3 guys they'll be able to play. And, of course, within numbers, that's going to be to their advantage.
Thank you.
This is an update on the race thus far. As we pick up live images, they head up Mount Buninyong. We're inside the final 60 kilometres, and Phil, it's been an active start to the race, but it's almost status quo from the beginning, as just one rider is away at the moment, Will Clark. But they started with the playing of the national anthem. Jesse Monk getting off to a fine start with no backing music at all. What a brilliant performance it was.
16 years of age as well. Then the red coat fires the gun. It was a very emotional send-off. The last time we will see Cadel Evans ride away in a national championship. Will he come back the champion? There's a question.
The early aggressor, Pat Shaw, in the blue colours from Avanti. He's one of the boys from Ballarat, and he loves racing here. Cam Peterson from the Drapac team, a new recruit across to that squad. And the big man, Paul van der Ploeg from Charter Mason. He wanted to make sure that his team was represented early. And Pat Shaw knows where to be early in this race.
Yes, into the second lap, about 10 kilometres covered. These four riders getting themselves together. They were to provide the carrot in the opening few laps of the race, but there were plenty more, like Heinrich Haussler here, winner of a stage of the Tour de France a few years back. He joined in a very workmanlike group of some 11 riders to cross to the leaders.
The Budget Forklifts team, they showed their intentions early. Jack Bobridge in the breakaway, so too Luke Durbridge from Orica-GreenEDGE, two former winners of this race. And what was a breakaway group of 15, at one point had 4 former under-23 world time trial champions in it.
Yeah, and I think as they're cheered on by the Teletubbies here on a massive crowd gathering on the climb, Cadel Evans stalking the pack. They weren't allowed a big lead, Matt. They got rarely over a minute and a quarter.
And that worked well for Richie Port because he had a teammate in the break, Nathan Earl. Michael Rogers, he will not be going underneath the radar in that new Tinkoff Saxo kit.
That's for sure. He stands out. He's quite luminous even in the beautiful conditions we're now about to experience. The blue cloud is out for the nice and sunny now. Look at the crowd that's gathered here as we've got the breakaway. Eventually Haussler was dictating affairs on his own. He was being hauled in. The field themselves had trapped everybody else. It was becoming a very interesting format for these last few laps.
This is Will Clark from the Drapac team making his way across the top of the Subaru King of the Mountains point. His second season with this squad, but he has ridden with some of the biggest teams in the world. He's got lots of experience, and you've seen him win a stage the Tour Down Under in a big breakaway.
Absolutely, I have, and I'll tell you what, looking here at Will Clark, the Tassie rider, he's made a good move here. Drapac have been in everything so far today. They've had a man in every move. Clark was in that original break, which was 15. He's the only survivor now. He's been out since he broke clear on lap 11. We're now on lap 13. These are live pictures now, and Clark is holding about a little less than 2 minutes over the fragmenting peloton, which is breaking up now.
It is breaking up, and I just spotted the BMC colours, and it wasn't Cadel Evans towards the front. One of his key teammates, Rowan Dennis. And Rowan, we know he is flying. He got the silver medal in the individual time trial on Thursday. That was behind Richie Port. But Rowan Dennis here is in a defensive role, or a support role more appropriately for Cadel.
Yes, now we heard Cadel at the start of the programme. He's worried about the massive riders on Orica-GreenEDGE, you see, and at least he's got somebody like Rowan Dennis now to help him out, and I think Rowan would love to see Cadel come home the champion today.
Will Clark riding for Drapac. They're the second biggest team in Australian cycling in terms of budget and what their licence is. They're in the second division of world cycling. They've won this race before, and they've won it twice. Once with Peter McDonald, when he got the better of Adam Hansen and Michael Rogers. It was a 3-up sprint. Rogers and Hansen were teammates with the biggest team in the world, as it was then, HTC Columbia, and Peter McDonald beat them. They've also had Darren Lapthorne win the race. That was back in 2007, and he's back here for more. Rowan Dennis once again, though. We're still more than 50 kilometres left to race, and it's very active.
No, we're going into the crucial sectors of the race now. They won't be too worried about Will Clark, but they'll keep a close eye on him as they try to now force a group of their own away. We're just coming over the top of Mount Buninyong as we head past down towards the left turn into Gear Avenue, and then we're on the way down to the finish in the end of lap 13. It's about now we expect to see the action really open up.
Behind Rowan Dennis, it was Nathan Earl riding for the Sky team, and he was in that earlier breakaway group of 15. He's had clear instructions from Richie Port, get in the early moves so we don't have to do any of the chasing. There's only 2 of us after all.
So here's Will Clark, the man that started his season last year as a stage winner in the Tour of Perth opening day. He held that lead there for a day. Had some good prologue time trial victories this year, especially in Asia and Japan. And he's now making that left turn as we continue the descent. Still holds a nice lead over the field. There's Cadel Evans, little flick of the arm there. He's looking pretty sharp, Matt. This guy has come here to ride.
He looks very good. Cadel Evans, the man that rode his first national title in Thredbo way back in 1992.
What a journey it has been since then, and he is taking the initiative early. These are good signs for Cadel Evans. It would be a fairy tale ending.
Did you notice how he checked out who was coming through in that line of rise, making sure he recognised it? Now he's slotted right back in.
And the man behind him in the black colours is Dan McConnell, Australia's current best mountain biker. And Dan saw Cadel Evans looking for a little bit of protection. An awful lot of respect between those two. And Dan opened up the gate. Cadel, would you like to come in here? There's a nice sit for you behind Luke Durbridge.
Well, Dan was told he was under pressure today after the brilliant victory yesterday of Peter Mullins, who's also a mountain biker. Now they expect Dan to fly the mountain bike flag today. Anyway, we're looking at Will Clark at the moment, the Drapac rider. Drapac so far, the tactics are very plain. They put somebody in every move, and this is the latest one with Will Clark. 2.5 laps up front.
For the Drapac team to win, they need to win it from a breakaway. They simply don't have the horsepower to go head-to-head with Port and Evans. And their tactics today reveal that they feel the same way as we do.
This is the left turn into Fiskin now, and this is the long, fast descent through the trees here. In the years gone by, we've seen kangaroos charge out in front of the riders and koalas up the trees. This is Australia, as now we're looking back here on the road to Rowan Dennis. He's really driving. He's doing the job for Cadel right now.
He might be a little bit sore too, though, Rowan Dennis. He had an accident training. It was going around Lake Windaree. He just bike seized up. He went over the top of the handlebars, and he's taken quite a bit of skin off his right hip. So he might be a little bit sore, but nonetheless, he's in the thick of the action and he's world class.
Well, if he is sore, he's keeping it a good secret here. He's looking very, very alert on the front, and he's forcing a little group of 6 here.
This is Patrick Lane riding for the African Wildlife Safari team, who is
amazing, isn't he?
Just clipping off the front.
He's been in every move as well himself today, Patty Lane, and he's a local boy.
Luke Durbridge was sitting behind him. So too was Tim Rowe from the Drapac team. Now, Tim Rowe is one of the dark horses. We haven't mentioned him yet. He did at one point ride for the BMC team. He had a few illnesses and injury. Took a big step back. He was racing with budget forklifts last year. He was well placed in the Subaru National Road Series. Gets his chance this season with Drapac. He doesn't have to do any work at this point because he's got his teammate Will Clark off the front on his own.
Well, hats off to Will Clark. This is the dangerous section of the course as far as speed is concerned. We can hit 80 kilometres an hour down here. Very, very fast indeed. In the junior race of the under-23, we had a rider disappear into the trees. He can make one of the corners. Happily got back on his bike, he was fine. But accidents are only just around the corner. This section of the course, we're racing down now to the Geelong Road that swings us up towards the finish line again.
The Tinkoff Saxo colours, they're easy to spot. The fluoro colours of Michael Rogers, sitting comfortably in the main peloton. He will not be getting under the radar wearing that kit today, nor should he with the CV that he's got. What a record, Michael Rogers.
Watch out for Michael Rogers. He's looking. He says he's not really on top of his form, but he looked pretty sharp when we were chatting to him the other day at a function. Anyway, this is still Will Clark here. Had a great season, 4 victories for Drapac last year, and coming out fighting quite clearly this time around. They're fresh off a training camp in Bright, and reports were they got about 22 hours of good training in at that camp. Here we are, left turn onto Geelong Road, turn right for Ballarat, but on this occasion you turn left for Buninyong.
38 seconds.
Oh, he took that a bit wide, didn't he?
Put the brakes away. Will Clark, no need to touch them. He wants to make every post the winner. Trying to maintain as much momentum as he possibly could through that corner. Nearly a little bit too far. The weather was threatening to rain, but the conditions today are perfect for racing. Overcast, not too warm. By comparison to when Jack Bobridge won the national title. Remember that? It was 40 degrees.
Oh, it was a roaster, man. What a great victory it was by Jack Bobridge on that occasion. He came across the leaders and he blew them all away one by one.
Here's another look at Will Clark making his way.
Look at that. He just gets it in there before the grass. 2 kilometres to the end of the lap.
So Will Clark off the front on his own with a 38-second advantage over the chasing group. Back in the main peloton, the Drapac team will be relieved because they came into this race with all the numbers. They've got more riders in the race than any other squad. They started with 14. The next biggest squad is Orica-GreenEDGE, who have started with 8 riders in the race. So for Drapac, if they're not in the breakaway, it's their responsibility to do the chasing. Will Clark has taken some of the pressure off. Speaking of pressure, Phil, there's a fair bit of it on Orica-GreenEDGE. So far in the men's racing, they've only got a silver medal to their name in the criterium, courtesy of Caleb Ewan. And in the women's, out of 9 medals up for grabs, they didn't get any.
then you're right, the pressure is on, and I understand that the team owner, Jerry Ryan, is coming to watch the event today. I haven't seen him around yet, but the team management is certainly watching with interest. Numerically, they've got the numbers, and we must remember, since the team came into being, they've never lost this championship.
And they're without the defending champion, Simon Gerrans, who would have come in as the favourite. Yeah. And also absent is Michael Matthews, who would have been a real chance to win this race. This is Will Clark, who'll be coming through this time. He'll be getting 5 laps to go, so he's just on 51 kilometres left to race. Another one of the many Tasmanians who we've spoken about throughout this year's National Championships. The Tasmanians have been performing well. Yes. Will Clark makes his way through Buninyong.
He looks very cool here. Remember, he had to get away from he sensed that the original break of 15 was being caught, and he went off on his own. Good decision. He's kept the colours flying up front of Drapac. And he's gone that left turn to face up again to the Midland Highway, and the climb takes them right to the base of Mount Buninyong, climbing it 18 times. It's an awful lot. Just looking here at the moment as we see Patrick Lane of the African Safari Wildlife Trips.
This is a new team for Patrick Lane in 2015. He has spent the last couple of seasons racing in Italy. He'll be on the domestic circuit throughout the year. I can remember seeing Pat Lane when he first fronted up to ride some track races, and he was maybe 10 years of age. Had to get a particularly small bike for him with even smaller wheels. He's still not particularly tall now, but that works to his advantage on this course because Paddy Lane can climb. He's 44 seconds behind Will Clark.
44 seconds behind. He's pulled in quite a gap here. He might well get across here. And I think Will Clark would like to see an extra pair of wheels come up and give him a hand, because this is the long climb through the feeding zone now. This is part of the climb, but technical regulations say that you can't have the feeding station on a climb. So they officially start the climb further on, but it's all uphill. 5 to go being shown the peloton. They've gone through 73 seconds behind.
And they've been led through by Pat Shaw in the blue colours of Avanti Racing, who was in the earlier breakaway. Now that the Avanti team has missed the move, he's got some responsibility to do the chasing.
And he knows the course better than anybody because he lives in Ballarat, and this is his moment of grandeur every year, and he always gets in front of our cameras.
It was nice to see Reece Gillett also in that earlier move.
Another man locally, yeah.
2 local riders, both in the breakaway.
Absolutely. Well, they've been out training on the course for a year, let's face it.
A home ground advantage.
Exactly.
It is
quite like a football match, but still. Looking down from the helicopter, top of the picture, their big mass. This is a group which has now been split off at the back here. This has been a very decisive lap this time, the chase to get up to those breakaways.
And age taking its toll on the man at the back of that group in the bright colours of the Rafa kit, sitting in second last position. That is Alan Aquan, who is celebrating the 21st anniversary from when he won the Australian Championships way back in 1994. That was up in Mooloolaba, Queensland.
He has the right to slip off the back, Alan, because he's been a terrific bike rider over, well, virtually since I've been coming here to Australia. I've always known Alan in the action.
And when you saw Cadel Evans at the Tour of Tasmania win the race for the second time in 1999,
yeah,
it was Alan who was second. He's had a good career.
He's had a great career. Very quietly spoken, absolute gentleman, I have to say, and he helps the youngsters as well.
The red colours from the Drapac team in the centre of the picture. That's a new recruit for that squad. It's Graham Brown. His best results on the track. 2 Olympic Games gold medals back in 2004 in Athens. One in the Madison with Stuart O'Grady, the other in the team's pursuit. But his role here is to look after their big favourites for the road title. Pat Lane making his way through the feed zone. And this is a tough feed zone. He's got the grimace on as well. 44 seconds was the time gap to Will Clark when they went through the finish line.
14th ascent of the Midland Highway of 18 in total. And now let's have a little pan up to the right. No, we're going to show you the ground instead. But I thought we were going to have a look there because Will Clark may not be that far ahead now, especially on the slopes here. Will heading up towards the left turn on the approach to the top of the Subaru mountain walls.
One of the great challenges with this climb, particularly the first part up the Midland Highway, is it's dead straight. And
it's
you can
horrible.
See a 2-minute gap just about. It's a real disadvantage for the breakaway.
Yes, it is. It is dead straight, Matt, and you feel as though you can reach out and touch riders in front of you, but you just can't get up there. He's looking very, very good here, Paddy Lane.
The best way to describe Pat Lane is tenacious.
Yeah, and there's the lone figure of the leader. Now, he broke away from the rest of the field on lap 11. Here we are now on lap 14. Will Clark still out in front. Pat Lane trying to reach him. The African Wildlife Safari team. Interesting sponsor that for a professional cyclist.
Well, I would have figured that you'd be big supporters of them, given the amount of time you spend in Africa.
Exactly, and I've met these boys in Africa, actually, in South Africa, when they've been taking safaris there. So, nice self-portrait on the back there. Looks like a line, doesn't it?
It does.
He's a line or a lane?
He's made the left-hand turn onto Mount Buninyong. They get a little bit of respite when they do make the left-hander, but then as it veers to the right, he can see the climb stretch out in front of him, and that's where it gets really tough. Another part of the challenge is being able to smell the barbecues towards the top.
And fabulous crowd today on the climb. They're beginning to thin out a little bit now because they're actually walking back 2.5 kilometres down to the finish back in Buninyong. But there's been a massive crowd that are enjoying the race all day. Now there you can see the relationship. Will here, 2 kilometres into the 10-kilometre lap, and in the distance hitting that 8-kilometre board is Pat Lane.
He took a look over the shoulder of Will Clark to assess the situation. Looks fairly composed. I think you might be right, Phil. You might be waiting for Pat to come across, but maybe over the top of the climb. Just ride your own tempo at this point.
Now he looks a lot closer here, but of course it is the camera relationship here. He's still a little way in front, Will Clark, but I think he might well welcome the arrival now of Pat Lane.
They've taken the SRAM neutral service out from the gap, so it doesn't foreshorten it any further for Pat Lane. They don't want to provide any sort of an advantage. But the key fact is that the main peloton, they're still almost within reaching distance of them. They're just a handful of seconds behind.
Ballarat is a bustling regional city with grand old boulevards and heritage buildings providing a picturesque backdrop for a lively and modern city. Great cafes, wonderful restaurants featuring local produce, and some of the best antique and vintage shops in Australia can all be found here. The city is rich in culture, one of Victoria's must-see destinations.
Inside the final 50 kilometres of the race, and it is Pat Lane about to join Will Clark as they approach the top of Mount Buninyong, going across the Subaru King of the Mountains point. The main peloton, they're all together. They're at 1 minute and 13 seconds behind at the last time check. Will Clark, no doubt, will welcome the arrival of Pat Lane.
In his 30th year, be 30 in April, Will Clark, and now being joined by Pat Lane. It's still a little bit of ground to make up. They'll get together just over the top. Clark will want the Subaru King of the Mountain points. There's the rear view. Look at the crowd. As big as we've seen here. It was a lot bigger 2 laps ago, but as I say, they're beginning to drift down to the start-finish line because actually Ballarat Corporation is running a shuttle service to get everybody back home to watch the finish. And they're all here, of course, to see the final championship of Cadel Evans.
With the spectators, it's always a big rush to get back down the hill at the end of the race. Is that Caleb Ewan coming across in the white colours? It is Caleb, the silver medalist from the Criterium, who is trying to bridge across to the breakaway. That's a bold move.
And at this stage of the race indicates that this 20-year-old is up for it.
Well, he's up for it, and Scott McGrory, he is in amongst all the action on the side of the road at Mount Buninyong.
Well, while the race is really heating up here on top of the mountain, the crowd is going nuts as well. Absolutely massive crowd up here. And while we see the riders coming past, the attacks are coming thick and fast. There is still plenty of support out here for Cadel Evans. So we'll see if the rider for BMC Racing Team can really come through with the mix. I'll throw back to you guys in the studio.
Scott McGrory, he's a former teammate of Cadel Evans when they're on the same squad at Mappe. He's also a former Olympic Games gold medalist. Were you ever former when you're an Olympic Games gold medalist? I think you always are.
I think you're always a champion, yeah. And Scott's a champion, that's for sure. He looks very, very fit. He still trains with these guys when he's not working for us. We've got the 2 riders together at the front. They're just over the top. They've gone through the Subaru banner. They're now looking for the way down again towards Gear Avenue. And so Pat Lane is linked up now with Will Clark at the front.
And Will Clark is showing his experience. Pat Lane has come across. He's done a lot of work to get there. And Will Clark is not asking Pat at this stage to do any work. He's allowing Pat to recover a little bit, and then they'll start to share the workload. But given the size difference between them, I'm not sure how much of a sit Will is going to get sitting behind Pat.
No, and the peloton here steadily regrouped after they went up the hill there. Oh no, they didn't. We've still got Caleb Ewan here going away, and joining there is Sam Spokes. Sam's been on the attack since the first lap as well. He was the first Drapac rider to attack, and he's still going strong here on the 14th circuit.
New recruit for the team. Last season he was riding with the Quick Step development squad, so he's got some experience. Well, the sentimental favourite without question is, of course, Cadel Evans, and here's a look at the stunning career of Cadel.
The journey on two wheels for Cadel Evans has been a long and fruitful one. His career in the spotlight started on a mountain bike.
Originally I started back in 1991. I just went along to the mountain bike race. It was held in my house and enjoyed it. Thought, yeah, I might do this again.
Then the transition to the road was gradual, but it came with immediate success. Victory in the 1998 and 99 Tour of Tasmania, considered by many a turning point. Australia's best road riders beaten by a man of the dirt.
I've won races, you know, lots of mountain bike races and the odd road race now as well. But I don't know, there's just a certain excitement, and this is my first big tour victory, and wow, for me it's huge.
It's a career of many chapters, the greatest story in the history of Australian cycling.
It is quite a story, the one of Cadel Evans. He's in the Australian National Championships for the last time. Did you note who was sitting behind him in that vision from the Tour of Tasmania after he won to the top of Mount Wellington? None other than the great Phil Anderson. So Phil Anderson handed the baton over.
And Phil is here to watch the race as well today, and still is remarkably fit. He was a brilliant cyclist as well, won most of the world's major stage races, but never managed to get quite the Tour de France, although he did wear the yellow jersey for long periods of time on 2 occasions. So Pat Lane has joined and is now doing his share of the pacemaking, coming up Gear Avenue, getting ready for the left turn down into Fiskin. Will Clark still willing to work. They've got 2 strong riders here. 2 riders that won't be absolutely marked by the favourites and might be given their chance here.
The gap between the 2 leaders and the main peloton is at roughly 47 seconds. That's what we're hearing from out on the course. One of the brutal things about this course is they get to the top of the climb and it's still another few kilometres before the descent really starts.
Yeah, chance to flick up the gears now and start pedalling down as we go down through the chicanes of Fiskin down towards Geelong Road. Once again, we're on lap number 14. When they reach the finishing line, there will be 45 kilometres to go. So they're right at the 50-kilometre marker now.
4 kilometres to go before they go through the finish line once again. We're inside the final 45 kilometres. Not a lot of room to play with, but they are working well together. Drapac team with the numbers. Caleb Ewan also showing plenty of strength for the Orica-GreenEDGE squad. Be quite a surprise if Caleb won the race. He will at some point in his career, but this is his first attempt at the elite level.
But the fact is this, you know, people are comparing this young man with the speed of Mark Cavendish, the British sprinter. But as we said at the time, this guy can climb as well, and this is not necessarily a pure climbers course, but very much a strong riders course. And Caleb has shown us now, he's number 22 as you look at the picture here. He's getting a very workmanlike group on the move here, but hey, look at all the red jerseys up here.
And one of them is Darren Lapthorne, the rider that sits at the back of this group. He was the winner of the national title back in 2007. Jordan Kirby is also there for this squad. So too is Sam Spokes. This all of a sudden is very interesting. And Michael Hepburn, last year's individual time trial winner for Orica-GreenEDGE.
And where's number 1 here? But that's not because he won this race 1 year ago. That's because he's on the same team of the man who did, Simon Gerrans.
Drapac, Orica-GreenEDGE. 2 teams represented in this extraordinary little group. And Darren Lapthorne at the back of it, the man who won solo in 2007. Caleb Ewan, he's not contributing to the pacemaking, rightly so at this point.
If you're looking for something to do with a family this summer, Ballarat certainly has a lot to offer. There's the Ballarat Wildlife Park, where you can feed the animals, the world-famous Sovereign Hill, which brings Gold Rush history back to life, and Ballarat's 2 newest attractions, Cryal Castle, a medieval-themed adventure park, and the Museum of Australian Democracy at Eureka. As we look down from the hill here, that was Patrick the Wombat, by the way, Matthew, who's 29 years of age and the oldest wombat known. Isn't that amazing? And he weighs 37 kilos.
And sat in your lap.
And sat in my lap. I couldn't get him off.
How were the size of the claws?
Oh, big, believe me. So were his teeth. Oh, lovely. We're looking down on the two leaders here, but there is a move behind which I think should bring a lot of concern to both Cadel Evans and Richie Porte, because the two teams, the two big teams, are combining.
This is exactly what Cadel spoke about before the start of the race. The numbers game. The two biggest teams are off the front, and Cadel has got twice as many, in fact 3 times as many teammates as last year. He's actually got teammates. He's got 2 in the race. He was completely isolated last year. It's so difficult with just 2 teammates to be able to control a breakaway like this one.
Well, here are the boys in red, and these 3 boys, it's getting a little stretch. Now, Heinrich Haussler has joined this group now. As we swing onto the road down towards the end of lap number 14. Cadel Evans is also, I think, across this gap. There's Haussler in the IAM Cycling dark blue jersey on the far side.
Spokes in the red towards the front. Jack Anderson now for the budget forklifts team. Caleb Ewan is certainly there. Neil van der Ploeg for Avanti Racing has managed to make it across. Let's see if we can pan back and take a closer look and really assess the situation. He's a strong time trialist, Jack Anderson. He has been on the podium in the Australian Championships in the past.
55 kilometres an hour, can't pedal any quicker, so he's down to the freewheel situation. Just coming up there smoothly on the outside is the ex-rower, Camworth, who's come up from South Australia to take part today. That's an interesting racing colour.
Well, he's riding for the Cannondale team, which has merged with what was the Garmin Sharp squad. And not sure that he's got the new kit yet, but they always go with the Argyle flavour.
Well, I hope he doesn't try to take a drink out of that bottle in his back pocket, I must say.
He'll be bitterly disappointed.
He would be. Now let's see if we can see who's come across here, because this is a building gap which was started by Drapak.
Spokes at the front. It's Van der Ploeg who sits behind him. Michael Hepburn is certainly there for the Orica-GreenEDGE team.
So is Caleb Ewan, just about to peep into our picture there. There he is, having a drink. He's looking very, very good, this young man. 20 years of age, what a star.
And no pressure at 20 years of age, because the expectation is on the more experienced men. That looked like Peter Milostic sitting behind him, who is 40 years of age. And Lachlan Morton has managed to make it across for Jelly Belly. Also there is Campbell Flakemore, a teammate of Cadel Evans. And once again, Jack Bobridge.
Well, this is another interesting reshuffle here as they come down to go out now onto lap number 15 here, leaving. They've been racing just short of 3 3/4 hours. Been a very quick race today. You're right, it is Milostic in 4th place.
Well, he was in the Australian development squad in 1992. He's surely not developing any longer, but he is still showing that you don't have to slow down and stop at 40.
Like the wine of the region, he's maturing on this occasion. Sam Spokes, Neil van der Ploeg, Caleb Ewan and Peter Milostic with the first 4 through, followed by number 1, Michael Hepburn. Jordan Kirby was there as well. We saw Camworth. Haussler's got across. He was in the early breakaway. Mitch Docker, another strong man on the Orica-GreenEDGE. Campbell Flakemore, defending for Cadel Evans. Jack Bobridge, who looks to have refound himself so far this year. He medalled in the time trial with a bronze.
That is a group of 16 riders that are doing the chasing. The challenge will be to get them all to work well together. The Drapak team making their intentions felt early. Sam Spokes sitting at the front. The rumour was that BMC Racing were very close to signing Sam Spokes, and they decided on Campbell Flakemore. Both of them are in this chasing group.
Both worthy of the signature of BMC, the team of Cadel Evans. As we watch here the chasing group coming through now, this contains Cadel Evans up to the right of our picture there.
Let's see what the gap is when they go through. They go through at 1 minute and 58 seconds, which puts them at 1 minute and 25 seconds behind that big group of 16 riders on the road that are stuck in the middle.
What is amazing, how fast that chase group got away from this peloton just over the top of the climb, 16 riders. And this is very, very difficult now for both Cadel Evans and Richie Porte and Michael Rogers.
And how quickly they gained more than a minute on the group with those big favourites. This is Pat Shaw on the front, the blue colours of Avanti Racing. Mark O'Brien is the rider that sits behind him. He's been so close, Mark O'Brien, to potentially getting a big contract, but not quite there. Well, coming down to the final 4 laps, the 2 riders off in front, Will Clark and Pat Lane. They went through with a 34-second advantage as they headed through the start-finish line. But Will Clark is the strong man from the Drapac squad. He's been in there for a long time. His team director, Agostino Geramondo, just on the side of the road, pointing, Pat Lane, he's ahead, he's up the road. You need to get back in contact with him. Easier said than done.
Very much so. Our view from the helicopter belies this climb as well as we're looking at Pat Lane here. But this is, I think, a very serious part of the race as far as the riders without teammates are concerned, because it's the big teams who's caused this split, and it was Orica-GreenEDGE and Drapac working together who's forced this group of 16 riders. There's Mitch Docker there in our camera lens at the moment. And riders know that they've got something possibly going for themselves here now as they start the move. Looking at Mitch Docker's face, this is a serious move, and just on the inside of him is Darren Lapthorne, knows all about winning titles. And of course they will have noted already that there is no Richie Porte, no Michael Rogers and no Cadel Evans in this move, as Sam Spokes keeps the pressure on the climb with Van der Ploeg just tucked in. Looking in the distance there, no sign of the main chase at the moment. Spokes will keep this one going while they're rid of the likes of Evans and Porte. They won't ease up at all here. They've still got the left turn onto the mountain itself.
Sam Spokes has been doing so much work. Neil van der Ploeg sitting there in second spot. He won't contribute too much to the pacemaking, I wouldn't have thought. Oliver Kent-Spark, he's also in this break. He's there for the search to retain team. As we look at the sole leader now, Patrick Lane. At the very least, he'll be remembered for animating this race, Phil.
And absolutely, Pat Lane's been in the action all day, but this time he had to come up and join Will Clark. Now he's left him behind, those legs well recovered. Last lap he was catching him, this lap he's leaving him. As we look down at the top here now, I think it's a very difficult position now for the big 3 names of Michael Rogers, Richie Porte, Cadel Evans. This is not good right now for them.
They're a minute and 50 seconds behind Pat Lane. They're a minute and 30 seconds behind a group that contains a former winner of the race, Jack Bobridge, another former winner, Darren Lapthorne, who's been training in Bendigo and keeping good company.
Scott McGrory obviously keeping in good shape back there.
Here is Pat Lane, grimacing, assessing the situation behind him. Almost at the top of the climb.
Waiting, she's 200 metres from the finish. The best she can hope for is to hold on. The woman who won.
This is Peter Mullins, the winner of the race yesterday, collecting the gold medal ahead of Rachel Nayland and Shah Ruggiero. What a day it was. She's made her name on the track, on the mountain bikes, and she now, for the rest of her life, gets to come back to Buninyong, take a look at the honour roll and see her name listed as the Australian champion in 2015. As Pat Lane makes his way towards the top of Mount Buninyong, the chasing group behind him with Will Clark stuck in the middle. We're joined by the Australian champion, Peter Mullins. Congratulations, what a day.
Thank you. I feel this race is too exciting for me to be participating in this. I'm getting revved.
You're normally standing on the side of the road having a barbecue with the crew from Bendigo, just enjoying the race.
I was actually up there about 10 minutes ago and I've run all the way from the top of the hill. I think it's the atmosphere up there is ridiculous.
How'd you sleep last night?
Not very much at all. I was, I think my support crew celebrated for me and they kept me up quite late, but I wouldn't miss this for the world today.
This is Pat Lane at the front. He has got the grimace on. And you can see the African Wildlife Safari team, they've managed to squeeze their car in the middle, Phil. They're delighted with their new signing.
Well, from being the hunter, he's now the hunted on the climb here, but at least he should get the Subaru King of the Mountains points at the top. And how long will he stay away from that field? Because the field are in a confused state of affairs now. They're picking up Will Clark, the Tassie boy from Drapac, but they also know they are clear of the race favourites and they can't turn this opportunity away now to try and push home the advantage they've got. Fabulous crowd. It's thinning out now, believe it or not, just a little bit as they're all making the way down to Buninyong for the finish. But this, I think, Matt, is one of the best crowds we've seen here. Look at that.
It's decision time for the race. It's decision time for the spectators. Watch them across the climb or watch them down at the finish line. Peter, this is the situation as we look at the chasing group. Mitch Docker Caleb Ewan and Michael Hepburn from the Orica-GreenEDGE team. Jack Anderson comes to the front for budget forklifts. If you were calling instructions for Orica-GreenEDGE, would you be happy with this situation?
I feel like they're just waiting and waiting. They're being extremely patient, and I think this course does benefit those that can be patient, but at the end of the day, you've just got to hope the bike race isn't riding away from them. Drapac are strength in numbers at the moment.
Sitting at the back is Darren Lapthorne from the Drapac team. He won here in 2007. You've done a lot of your training with him. Can he win it for a second time?
I think so. I think he's a really, really classy bike rider, and I said patience before, and I think he has the most patience of any bike rider I've ever seen, and he'll just wait and bide his time, and he's got some great form, and I know that the green and gold stripes meant a lot to him when he wore them a few years ago, and he would love to have them back in Bendigo.
Pat Lane still off the front on his own. He is burying the head as much as he possibly can. Phil, one of the criticisms, if it can be called a criticism, of Darren Lapthorne is that he's too nice.
Yeah, that's a good criticism. I'm a nice guy and people don't like me either. But in fairness, no, I remember Dan, because for a while he came over to race in Britain as well. And he got his title in 2007. He hasn't won a race, since October last year. Oh, 2 years ago now, when he won the stage of the Tour of Tasmania. But I think you're right. He's looking very, very sharp. And there he is at the moment. And so let's hope he can do something about this. But there's another attack. Is that who's gone off the front?
That's Robbie Hucker. He's also another Bendigo boy.
Bendigo are having a great championships. I'll give you that, Peter.
They are. Yes. I don't miss a beat on those boys.
They also won the under-23 criterium with Chris Hamilton, who's a big star of the future. We'd like to call him the Hurricane, don't we, Phil?
We do now, after seeing the way he finished the other day, yes.
Heinrich Haussler at the back of the group, number 15, just having a bite to eat. Peter, how important is it just, as soon as you get across the top of that climb, keep the fluids up and take some food on board?
Yeah, I think in previous years it's been really hot, and you're always really conscious of it when it's hot to eat and drink, and it's just as important when it's not hot. Your body suffers just as much. You're exerting, just as much power. And I think yesterday I had 8 gels, I had 3 no-dos, and I had 5 bottles. And at times I thought I was going to vomit, but you just can't get enough in on a race like today.
58 seconds now the advantage for Pat Lane, who is off the front. Oh, he's on his own, chasing group that is behind him. And then it's further back to the main peloton. If you were Cadel Evans, Richie Porte, Michael Rogers, would you be nervous with the current situation?
Yeah, I think I would be. And I know those guys have come in here with possibly the form of their lives. Richie Porte is looking so fit. And he'd be nervous. He wants a crack at it today.
Camworth, hand up there. He either wants somebody else to come do the work or he's got a problem.
And now Will Clark has been caught by that group. This is Jordan Kirby now who's on the front. He's been the Australian Under-23 road champion and time trial champion. He, Will Clark, Robbie Hucker, Sam Spokes, they'll be setting the tempo for the one and only Darren Lapthorne.
Well, I'll tell you what, Drapac have done it all right today, because they've been in the break from the very first attack, which was by Sam Spokes on the opening lap. And now he's up here in what could be a much more vital move here. We're just swinging along into Gear Avenue once again, heading down this undulating road to the left turn into Fiskin.
You've probably seen a fair bit of Pat Lane throughout his career, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, they say good things come in small packages, and he's definitely the definition of that. I've been friends with his sister Jess Lane for years, and I've watched him grow up from a little boy to a slightly bigger boy. He's still quite small, but I think it's great to see him animating the bike race and giving it a real crack today.
Described him earlier on as tenacious.
He is. He's never disappointing. I think he's just one of those bike riders that if his name is on the start list, it's going to be a good bike race. He leaves it all out there.
Will Clark, the big man on the left there, he's just been brought back, but he's still willing to work with his teammates. He's looked around. It's a cloak of red in this group from Drapac, and they're not going to lose this opportunity. Caleb Ewan won't do a lot of work in this break. He's outnumbered by the men in red, but there he is, number 22.
And the man in the pink helmet is Morton, but this time it's Angus Morton, not Lachlan Morton. He's the older brother who's just returned to racing in the last 12 months. It's good to see him back.
I actually went to Junior Worlds with Angus Morton, and he was a character back then. He's still a character now, and he always had the talent to be a good bike rider. It was just a matter of whether he had the drive, and it's good to see him up there today.
Well, I'll tell you, he's the one thing I'll miss, and the memory I'll take away from these championships over these last 5 days is his pink helmet. Because he bought the spray can, he's painted it pink. He thought he'd be different, but he's a commentator's dream. He always can spot him.
And his brother has got the green helmet on. It's made it pretty easy to spot him as well.
Absolutely. Well, there's not such good news at this stage of the race. Evans and Porter still in the peloton being the main group of cyclists. The attackers are out up front, 3 kilometres from the end of lap number 15, and Pat Lane is still full of fight.
Pat Lane is making his way down Fiskin Avenue. How quick were you going down there yesterday?
So we're looking here now as we go down through the trees again. Very picturesque section of the course. There's 1 or 2 beautiful properties down here at 3 kilometres from the end of the lap. And this, remember, is the group that is trying to get rid now of the stars, and it's getting bigger and bigger. I think there should be 16 riders here in the group. Just tagged on the back there is Budget Forklifts' Jack Anderson. Number 15, just in front of Anderson, is Heinrich Haussler, stage winner in the Tour de France in Colmar in the pouring rain, and he didn't help matters when he started crying as well as he crossed the line. But it was a marvellous occasion for Heinrich Haussler in the Tour de France back in 2009.
The colder it is, the better it is for Heinrich Haussler. This is Jack Anderson at the back of the group for the Budget Forklifts team. He is making sure that Jack Bobridge is well looked after throughout this race. 5 riders from the Drapac team in that leading group. That's a lot.
They've got it right up to now. They really have. But they did have a lot of starters, of course. And Cadel Evans was quite vociferous about the fact that some teams had a lot of riders. We have to remember it's an individual title, but during the normal racing, these boys all race on the same teams.
Instructions come in for Pat Lane. What would you say to him now, Peter?
Oh, I mean, it's a tough one. He really can't wait for the race to catch him now. He's got nothing to lose. I think that bunch will probably bring him back eventually, and I think he just needs to enjoy the bit of time he's got on TV.
Well, he's got 3 laps to go, which is 30.6 kilometres when he gets through. He's not far away from coming through now to go out onto the next lap. It'll be lap number 16 of 18. 30 kilometres, it's so close to the finish. It's not far to a bike ride yet for these boys, right behind being chased down by the likes of Cadel Evans. It's a time when Cadel Evans is really with Richie Port. They may have to go next lap up the hill.
And that would make for an entertaining race.
It would.
Make for a big roar on the climb.
I think it's time for those guys to start mixing it up. They can't. They just can't wait any longer. It's really hard to bring back time on the second part of this course. There's so much descending, and they just need to soak it up now.
Pat Lane off on his own, riding for African Wildlife Safaris. He's getting to the tuck position when he can to try and save some energy for his next descent of the climb of Mount Buninyong.
Oh, if only this was the last lap, because when you come under that Jayco banner, you're 500 metres from the line. You see the line for the first time, and that's when they start to sprint. As Peter Mullins well remembers, as she came off that bend with Rachel Nayland yesterday, it must have been a wonderful feeling.
It was, and I think with about 200 metres to go, I just thought, I hope I don't stuff this.
The historical villages surrounding Ballarat are a real treasure. Just 10 minutes away, Creswick's main street is busting with great cafes. A must-see is the Forest Resort with a world-class championship golf course. There's fishing, vineyards, amazing food. Another gem is Buninyong, a small village just out of the regional city of Ballarat, well known for its glorious Gold Rush era architecture and magnificent streetscapes. Host to this year's individual time trial and road race.
3 laps to go in the Mars Cycling Australia Road National Championships. Pat Lane is off the front on his own, and that makes it around about 30 kilometres still to race. There is a strong chasing group of some 17 riders, and they are starting to breathe down the neck of Pat Lane. The main peloton, they're a lot further behind, and that contains the big favourites. Of course, Cadel Evans, the sentimental favourite, and Richie Port, the winner of the individual time trial. We're heading towards crunch time. We've got Peter Mullins with us, the winner of the women's race yesterday. Before we let you go, Peter, any predictions?
I think I was talking to Caleb after Baker's, and he said the team aren't putting pressure on him, but I think he'll be putting pressure on himself. I think he can. I think he can make this race. I think he can get over this climb.
And he's in the break, Phil.
That's a very, very interesting selection. I'll tell you what, a lot of people would be delighted if he were to win. But yes, Jack Bobridge is in there too, and Drapac will kick themselves if they can't provide the winner with all these riders in this group.
And Darren Lapthorne is in there, one of your training partners.
Yeah, and I love lappers, and I'd love to see him get up, but I think the climb's not quite long enough for someone like Darren Lapthorne, and I think he's going to find it really hard to get rid of someone like Jack Bobridge and then to roll him in a sprint. So.
Well, here's the catch. They haven't taken long to bridge that 17 seconds. We're out onto lap number 16 of 18 circuits here, and it's the Drapac boys who are coming right up behind Pat Lane. He knows now that the catch is on. There are now 18 riders out front.
And the main peloton has just gone through the finish line, 1 minute and 47 seconds down. Peter, congratulations on yesterday. Thanks for joining us, and go and enjoy the rest of the race.
I will do. Thank you, guys.
Phil, this is going to be an interesting final few laps. It really is turning into a race where the numbers are out in front, but the favourites are behind with a lot of chasing to do.
You're right, the favourites are behind, but there are names here who would be well worthy of this championship. Jack Bobridge, is he going to come back? He's won it before. Caleb Ewan, in the first year, he switched from the under-23s to World Tour status. Is he going to take away the championship? There he is. This man can do just about anything. He said at the start, as we all heard, Matt, he says, I'm not so much nervous, I'm just excited. And that's what youth does for you.
It says a lot about his character.
Yeah, it does.
He's not afraid of being the race leader or the team leader. Neil van der Ploeg taking on some water from the side of the road. The BMC colours that you can see in the breakaway, that is Campbell Flakemore, who's just joined the team this season. His first 3 races in the professional ranks are Cadell's last 3 races. And he was there in 2011 cheering Cadell on at the Tour de France from the side of the road. A childhood dream come true.
Well, there's Cadell Evans back in the peloton at the moment, a captive of the peloton, along with Richie Port. We'll probably see Richie not too far away from Evans. Number 24 peeping in is Zach Dempster, another rider who spends a lot of time racing in Europe, particularly in the UK and in Germany. This peloton is looking, I don't know. They're going to have to make a decision because the gap is opening up drastically here. We're still waiting for them.
Port, Evans, Hansen keeping company together in that main peloton. It's starting to get dangerous. 1 minute and 44 seconds. Here is Richie Port. We do know how quickly he can go across to the break. The man alongside him in the white colours, that's Simon Clark. He's their main card to play from the peloton.
I feel the move has got to come this time up Mount Buninyong. They're on the climb now, the bottom half of the climb. They turn left. They've got to break the elastic and get across to that group of 17 riders. Too many good riders up there.
Richie might agree with you. He's just had a conversation with his teammate Nathan Earl. He's now going forward. I wonder if he's about to have a chat to Cadell Evans.
Well,
he's riding alongside Adam Hansen. That's Rowan Dennis who sits in front of him.
There's Adam Hansen. What a man he is. He's ridden 10 tours, 10 Grand Tours straight, and hopes to do it again this year as well. A Grand Tour, by the way, if you're new to cycling, is the Tour de France, Spain or Italy. The 3-week races, and Adam Hansen has ridden the last 10 straight. Unbelievable.
And if he rides all 3 this year, he will break the record.
Well, he will then.
He's down on the list to ride.
He doesn't just ride, he wins stages as well. That's the big thing.
Robbie Hucker at the front, one of 5 riders from the Drapac squad in the breakaway. Third in line is Darren Lapthorne, the winner of this race back in 2007. Cameron Worth sits behind him. Michael Hepburn, the first of the riders from Orica-GreenEDGE. It is then Caleb Ewan, followed by Heinrich Haussler. Pat Lane has been caught by this group. Angus Morton with the pink helmet sits behind him.
Officially, we're on the start of the climb now, but we've been climbing for the last 1.5 kilometres. But now we're climbing up towards the baseline of Mount Buninyong itself. Before we swing away to head back around on lap number 16 of 18. You can see that it's all Drapac at the front. They're driving this to keep it clear so they can hopefully launch Darren Lapthorne. We've got to see an attack from the main chase.
And they're trying to expose other riders to the wind as much as possible. We can see from the trees that it's reasonably blustery towards the top of the climb.
Oh, it's windy.
It's coming from the right to the left, so they're putting the rest of the group into the gutter so they don't get quite enough of a sit.
For that reason, the referees won't allow that car to sit there too long and protect the riders with the wind blowing right to left as we look at our picture today. Jack Bobridge is another name that you can't turn down as a likely man, and if he came to a sprint, Heinrich Haussler could well take on Caleb Ewan.
Well, surely Heinrich Haussler would be hoping that he doesn't get another second place finish. Remember 2009 when he had so many seconds in big one-day races.
Yes, well, I remember the great Sean Kelly once. He had a year of 15 second places on the Tour de France. He just couldn't get there first. He only ever won 5 stages, actually. Best sprinter in the world in his era. Looking at the leaders, there's some of the names for you there.
Robbie Hucker doing a lot of work at the front. Sam Spokes, Darren Lapthorne in there for the Drapac squad. But Will Clark just trying to hold on to the back. Oliver Kent-Spark also in this group, the winner of the Melbourne to Warrnambool last year. He's riding for Search to Retain, health.com.au.
You can see the tactics unfolding before our eyes here. It's always the riders in red setting the pace. The riders in white, Orica-GreenEDGE, know what the tactic is. They're just going to watch and wait and hope they can play off that. Same applies to Jack Bobridge near the back in that lime green colour as well. Budget forklifts.
The lead group, they're making their way towards the top of the climb. Scott McGrory is on the side of the road. He's in amongst all the action.
Well, Team Drapac certainly are trying to take control of this race on Mount Buninyong. The 2007 Australian champion Darren Lapthorne has made his way into that breakaway group. Plenty of discussion up here amongst the fans as to whether this group can take it all the way to the finish. A lot of pressure now back on the big riders like Cadel Evans and Richie Port. I'll throw back to you, Phil and Paul in the studio.
I wonder how he feels about the cowbells.
Oh boy, he's obviously got a few friends down there, Scott, but they missed the riders go past. They're underneath the Subaru banner at the top of the climb here again. They swing left, they gently start to drop away down towards the finish. This is the cruelest course in National Championship road racing. I'm convinced you're either going up or you're going down, and you do it 18 times. They've now done it 16 times up here, and it's all Drapac who are setting the pace at the front. Cadel Evans and Richie Port have got to make the move very, very shortly.
The lead group of 18 riders, they've gone across the top of Mount Buninyong underneath the Subaru arch once again. Their advantage 1 minute and 54 seconds on the main peloton. That was when they went through the start-finish line at the bottom of the climb. Intrigued to see what it is at the top. The numbers are at the front with Orica-GreenEDGE and Drapac. This is Adam Hansen though, he starts to light things up. He has no teammates, but he's got oodles of courage.
Former time trial champion of Australia. In fact, he won the title on the very road he's racing through today. A few years ago now, this looks like Jesse Kerrison also having a little dig.
It's Rowan Dennis who's coming across.
I'm sorry, thank you very much, Matt. Rowan Dennis joins him here at the front.
And Orica-GreenEDGE trying to control it because they've got numbers in the breakaway, including Caleb Ewan, who yesterday's winner of the women's race, Peter Mullins, believes can win this race. So they're closing it down, and you see going across is Luke Durbridge, who's in no mood to continue with the pacemaking. There's Richie Port, number 4.
He's come up right on the wheel there of his teammate. But again, no decisive move. There was a little flurry of action, lifted the pace. This is Cadel Evans closing down the gap at the back.
He sits on the wheel of Ben Dybel. The peloton really is starting to get active. Across the top of the Subaru climb to the head of Mount Buninyong. Cadel Evans, how has the training been going? Only he knows. We don't have any racing to judge as a form guide.
Good wheel to follow there. That's Cam Bailey. He's out at the back as well. Another rider with an interesting history in cycling as their riders now, well, another climb has been ticked off. We're now on the way down. We're running out of places to attack this group at the front.
Darren Lapthorne and Jack Bobridge, former winners of the national title in the breakaway. That really highlights just how dangerous this move is. Well, Adam Hansen, he's got his intentions to try and get away. And the Drapac team, they've been so active throughout the race. We've seen Will Clark off the front for a long time. They started all the action with Sam Spokes and Cam Peterson. This is Simon Clark on the road.
Yes, interesting move this, because Clarkey is the man that keeps his powder dry. Could be in a position later on.
Simon Clark, he sits on the wheel of Richie Port. Nathan Earl is in front of him. Richie Port's got one teammate with him for support.
And he's looking after him, but we're running out of places to get across to that gap. The last time he had a time check was 1 minute and 44 seconds ahead of this group. Ballarat's picturesque Lake Wendouree is famed for its recreational opportunities and a chance to get up close with nature. Right next to the lake is Ballarat's beautiful Botanic Gardens. A summer highlight is Summer Sundays concert series, held every Sunday throughout January. The Ballarat Beer Festival, that's coming up and is one of the great attractions on Saturday the 24th of January.
Inside the final 2 laps, this is the main peloton. They are chasing a group of 18 riders who last time through the start-finish line had an advantage of 1 minute and 45 seconds. The pace is starting to heat up. Michael Rogers, Cadel Evans, Richie Porte, all in this group. It's now or never, maybe, because it's getting close.
They haven't give Richie Porte or Cadel Evans or Michael Rogers any chance at all. Drapac have ridden a very, very good tactical race just now.
And now we're starting to see back in that main peloton the Avanti Racing team doing the chasing. And that's where it all started with Richie Porte.
Yes.
They've got a prospect themselves, perhaps with Ben Dybel, who is a contender for a top 5. But Andrew Christie Johnson himself has said if one of his boys can't win, he'd be delighted if Richie did.
Well, we're heading towards 2 laps to go, and indeed we are looking at only 23.5 kilometres left to race to the finish of this event. This is probably the biggest peloton we've seen in this championship for some years because we don't get too many finishers. 41 riders finished last year when Simon Gerrans won. Before that it was much smaller. We only got 21 finished when Gerrans won his first title back in 2012. Sadly, Gerrans out this year with a broken collarbone. 3 kilometres to the end of the lap here.
Number 23, Mitch Docker in the breakaway group. Always easy to spot Mitch with the red shoes on. He's the only one in that team that wears the red shoes.
Well, I tell you what, Orica-GreenEDGE, they know exactly the tactics here of Drapac, and they're allowing them to play their tactics and just watching the stalls, and they could well finish up playing the winning cards.
And Mitch will know the tactics better than just about anybody else because he came up through the Drapac squad before moving to the World Tour level. He had a couple of seasons with what was then known as the Skill Shimano team before joining Orica-GreenEDGE. The race that Mitch dreams about is Paris-Roubaix. He has a fascination with the pavé.
He can join Sir Bradley Wiggins in that desire because Bradley Wiggins himself wants to excel in Paris-Roubaix. That's the race over the cobblestones of northern France, and it's held the second Sunday in April.
Big leading group. Orica well represented. So too the Drapac squad. Budget forklifts, they've got 2 riders in there, and the most important one is Jack Bobridge. That's another Jack Anderson, who leads them back onto Geelong Road. This is Jordan Kirby. He has been dropped by that leading group and he is stuck in the middle. Former winner of this race at the under-23 level. He was also a winner of the individual time trial. He's now caught by the main peloton. It's Avanti Racing at the front doing the chasing.
Well, Avanti trying to get a grip of this race at the moment. Jordan Kirby's just fallen back into the group now, so that group of 17 is reduced. And so is some of the firepower of Drapac. And you see Jordan Kirby doesn't like the proximity of our camera in case he's causing any wind protection for these riders, but I don't think he is.
Mitchell Lovelock Fay is the rider who's on the front doing the chasing. Mark O'Brien sits just behind him. Couldn't quite get a look at the rider who was 3rd in line, but I'm going to assume that it was Ben Dybel, who loves this course. He won the under-23 title, Ben Dybel, back in 2011. So he knows what's required on the circuit around Mount Buninyong. Back with the breakaway group, which is now down to 16 riders, and good to see Pat Lane still surviving.
Despite his effort for that breakaway, he's still in this group. There are indeed 16 riders. The only one we've shed is Jordan Kirby, and he did his work for Drapac and has now gone back to the chase group. He won't be helping them though. He's left his teammates safely up here.
Robbie Hucker now on the front. Caleb Ewan sitting in 2nd position. They go underneath the Jayco Arch, which is important to remember when they go through at the finish of the race. It's just 500 metres to go. They can see the finish line from that point, but they don't want to go too soon. It is a long sprint, and if you get a rush of blood, you can really pay for it. And as we saw last year in the sprint between Richie Porte, Cadel Evans and Simon Gerrans, Richie went a little bit too early. Simon Gerrans made the most of it.
20.8 kilometres left to ride to the finish now as they come through. Led through by the man that started it all, Will Clark, at the head of the race there. sorry, Robert Hucker it was. Robbie Hucker, Caleb Ewan, Neil van der Ploeg has gone through. Haussler is still very attentive. He's got good form by the look of it. Campbell Flakemore in the BMC colours, number 9 in our picture. Mitch Docker is here. And Lapthorne near the back of that group, watching and waiting, while the man who wears number 1, Michael Hepburn, he's just also waiting. And I think he's got some good legs. He's disappointed a little bit in the time trial, where he was the defending champion, but he looks to have recovered extremely well.
He finished in 7th position in the individual time trial, and he did confess he was disappointed. On that course, he confessed it didn't suit him, but he was hoping for a top 5. He was ever so slightly out. And the man that finished in front of him is in the break with him, Campbell Flakemore, on the right-hand side of the screen, the BMC Racing colours. Peter Milostic is still holding on at the back of this group at 40 years of age.
Unbelievable. Fantastic.
Great performance by Peter Milostic from New South Wales. It's still Robbie Hucker who sits at the front as they make their way through the feed zone.
Plenty of daylight behind them. The village of Buninyong is nestled in the hills just outside Ballarat on the Midland Highway towards Geelong. On weekends you'll find farmers' markets overflowing with local produce, local winemakers showcasing their drops, and quirky cafes housed in Gold Rush era buildings. Like many of the region's Gold Rush era villages, the town has undergone a recent renaissance. These wide tree-lined streets and boulevards now house funky restaurants, shops and cafes.
Inside the final 20 kilometres, 2 laps to race around Buninyong. There's a breakaway group of 16 riders, and they have an advantage over the main peloton of 1 minute and 24 seconds. The peloton feel a lot can change on Mount Buninyong, particularly the final part of that climb. They've still got that group within their reach.
Well, the legs are hurting now here with Robbie Hucker at the front and Caleb Ewan in 2nd place. Caleb looks as though he's enjoying the scenery rather than the racing. He's looking in extremely good condition now. This is the penultimate lap. If they're in this situation next lap, then they better start worrying themselves about the location of Caleb Ewan, because he packs the finish power.
If this group was to come together at the finish line, he would be the unbackable favourite, Caleb Ewan.
There's some other riders in here. I'm impressed with Cam Worth, who really, because of the split of Cannondale now, he's sort of been retained by Cannondale, but he doesn't have really a world-class sponsor. And he's here, and he's in the multicoloured jersey. He looks like he's wearing an overcoat, actually, and he's in this breakaway.
It would be a fine win if it was Cameron Worth. He's represented Australia at the Olympic Games in Lycra.
In rowing.
Going backwards.
Yes, going backwards, that's right.
He'd love to go to the Olympics in Lycra going forwards on a bike. Cadel Evans.
Yes,
I wonder what's going through his mind.
The sleeves there, the rainbow jersey colours, when he won his World Championship and defended it in Geelong. He didn't win then, but he put on a great show in 2010. He won it in Switzerland. He won the Tour de France. He is Australia's greatest bike rider, and he is also riding his last national championship. I wonder what he's thinking about. He knows what's going on. He knows everybody is riding against him right now.
It's going to be an emotional month for Cadel Evans. What a career it's been. From first representing Australia at the World Championships at junior level in 1994, so 21 years ago. He's been flying the flag for Australia for a long time. He's got 3 races to come. This is the 3rd last, and it's his final one at the National Championships.
I'll tell you what, if they don't move on the climb this time, then they won't be crossing the gap over the last 10-kilometre lap, that's for sure. It's got to come on Mount Buninyong this time to try and shut down that gap.
Michael Rogers, he's back in that main peloton, along with Cadel Evans. 2 riders who have had their careers somewhat in parallel, at least they're from the same generation. They both finished inside the top 10 of the Tour de France in 2006. A lot was made of the performance of Michael Rogers, but it was Cadel that went on to take the biggest step of all.
Straight on to Bannockburn, that's a famous cattle site, and Geelong, but they've turned left on the circuit here now to start the climb up to the top of Mount Buninyong. And, well, Caleb Ewan has never looked in trouble. He's not helping this escape. He doesn't want to help this escape, but he's there as the man to try and clean up should it come down to the finish. The man on the front at the moment, Robbie Huck, has done an awful lot of work. Clearly the disposable workhorse for Drapac.
And the experience of Peter Milostic with the grimace on in the black colours, the oldest rider in the breakaway at 40 years of age. At the start of the climb, he's moved to the front, not to put his nose in the wind, but that will allow him
to slip ever so slightly down through this group, ride the climb just a little bit slower than everybody else, and then hopefully still be in contact when they go across the top, underneath the Subaru arch. Mitch Docker moving towards the front as well for the Orica-GreenEDGE team. Caleb Ewan has always been sitting in third or fourth wheel, riding so smartly at just 20 years of age. He's the youngest in the race. He's half the age of Peter Milostic. Michael Hepburn is also there, the winner of the individual time trial from last year. Campbell Flakemore, Jordan Kirby, he's lost contact from the Drapac team. Caleb Ewan, Mitchell Docker, Will Clark, Neil van der Ploeg, he's in the blue colours of Avanti Racing, sitting towards the front. Robbie Hucker, he's the man right at the front of this group. And Angus Morton, riding for the Jelly Belly squad. It's always easy to spot with the pink helmet on. This is Robbie Hucker on the front.
Yes, and it's got to be hurting now. 17 times up these slopes here. There's Camworth in the quilted jersey. And a little bit of an acceleration up towards the summit. Michael Hepburn has launched the attack. Now, it's supposed to be in the chase group this happens, but Hepburn has gone, and a very quick reaction indeed from Angus Morton in that famous helmet, and that is a little bit of a surprise. Angus must be feeling pretty good.
It's good to see Angus Morton back. The reaction is coming from behind because Michael Hepburn, the former Australian individual time trial champion, he's not a rider you can afford to let go. We saw in the under-23s Miles Scottson from a breakaway like this. He went at 2 laps to go on his own, and they didn't see him until they joined him on the podium.
I tell you what, Hepburn has got a strong pair of legs there, and he's keeping this going now. Drapac are going to have to get back on board with this one. They've watched, they've let Drapac do all of the pacemaking, and he's waited to the penultimate climb. Now remember, another top time trialist that put the move in here in the under-23 at exactly the same point. 1 lap from the end yesterday, and that was Miles Scottson who won.
And it's Sam Spokes who joins him. He goes straight across as they're about to head underneath the Subaru arch at the top of the climb. And responding, Caleb Ewan.
Well, that's going to keep the firepower in this group. Caleb McEwen, here comes Angus. He's up on the back wheel as well. That is a thinning out move. I think it might have caused a bit of damage back in the main chase. Sam Spokes back in control.
Number 22, Caleb Ewan, so often referred to as a sprinter. He's a lot more than that. He can climb when it comes to one-day races at least. Now we can see the reaction. Richie Port, he realises the danger. He's called Nathan Earl to the front.
Nathan Earl sets the pace. So Richie is waiting to be launched off his back wheel here. If Cadell Evans can, he must come closer to Richie Port. This has got to be the counter. Simon Clark on the back wheel of Richie Port. If it doesn't happen now, it's not going to happen.
Lockie Norris is still there for the Drapac team. He's in the red colours. Adam Hansen just behind him. The twist to the head from Simon Clark is a clear indication that there was a reasonable tempo. But Richie Port is still talking. He is so composed. How could he possibly have the oxygen to still be talking at that point?
He's still suffering, and the leaders swing on down the road here. This is an incredible race now. We've reformed here, this at 7 kilometres from the end of the lap. That means 13 kilometres from the end of the race. And Port, you're right, he's talking again to Nathan Earl. And he's very frustrated now because he suddenly realised that this move that came a few laps ago might be deciding the race.
Well, here they are. They've caught number 1, Michael Hepburn. At least some of them have. Neil van der Ploeg has managed to come across. 2 riders here from Orica-GreenEDGE. Hepburn number 1, Caleb Ewan number 22. And Jack Bobridge is there, a former winner of the race. And now Sam Spokes, he's decided to go. Hasn't Spokes been active? If there was a most aggressive prize.
Yeah, he'd be a candidate because he was attacking after only 2 kilometres of this race. And here we are now, just about 13 from the finish.
And it works out well for number 12. That's Darren Lapthorne at the back of the group. With Spokes being so active, Lapthorne can afford to just follow. Number 9, Campbell Flakemore. He will not be contributing. He's just playing the role of the policeman because he's a teammate of Cadell Evans.
Heinrich Haussler, number 15, has to be considered a danger from Inverell in New South Wales. He had a choice in his early days whether to be a German or Australian, and he chose to become Australian as far as the racing goes and represents Australia.
Heinrich Haussler, he has a German father. He was born and raised in Inverell, went back to Germany as a 15-year-old, and then I can remember him at Paris-Nice collecting
the King of the Mountains jersey. He was the leader of that classification. Post-race interview, the German licence, or the journalist said, geez, he speaks very good English for a German, and he does it with an Australian accent. We were pretty keen to inform them that he's very much an Australian. Back racing under an Australian licence. There he is, right in the centre of the picture, in the blue colours, Heinrich Haussler.
Frankly, looking as good as I've ever seen him look right now. He's still looking very cool out there. Number 12 is Darren Lapthorne, the previous champion. He's still up in the sharp end of this race. And the counter-attack, I don't think can do anything about this move right now. I think we're looking at the champion group.
The IAM Cycling team, they've put the names of their riders on the back of their jerseys, and Haussler or Heinrich, they couldn't make a decision, so they just went with Heino. There he is sitting in second last position. This is beginning to be a very select group at the front.
9 riders at the front as we make the penultimate turn into Fiskin, the long sweeping descent down to the Geelong Road. Meanwhile, we switch back down the road, the grim face, the jaw set on Cadel Evans there, as Drapak here still controlling this race. The tactics have worked, and Richie Port now taking a drink. I think he realises now there's no gold medal at the end of this day for him.
There's a lap and a half to race. There's a breakaway group of 9 off the front. There's a few who are stuck in the middle, and then it's the peloton with Richie Port, Michael Rogers and Cadel Evans. The race is still wide open. The gap between the leaders and the big favourites is hovering around about the 60-70 second mark.
Not very much as we approach 170 kilometres now covered in this race. 183 kilometres, the total distance of the day. This select group of 9 riders now still surviving out front.
What a different race it is without Simon Gerrans. Orica-GreenEDGE not having one rider to protect. They've got multiple cards to play, and it's been an aggressive race from them. Completely changed the complexion of it from 1 year ago.
Well, I'll tell you what now. Michael Hepburn has decided that the man to win this is his youngster, Caleb Ewan. Michael is making sure nobody can get back. He's using his time trial skills at the front as we fly down Fiskin towards the left-hand turn. An average speed over the race of 38 kilometres an hour. When you consider these hills, which go up for half the lap, that's a very tough speed.
The lead group, that is Michael Hepburn at the front. The yellow colours, Jack Bobridge, he just swings off. It is Neil van der Ploeg who sits behind him in the blue. Then Caleb Ewan, Campbell Flakemore in the red colours of BMC. With the pink helmet on, that is Angus Morton, followed then by Heinrich Haussler. And also in that group, we have Robbie Hucker, along with the former winner of the race, which is Darren Lapthorne.
Well, still pacemaking now, but with change of tactics at the front now, because Orica know if they can just keep Caleb Ewan in this group around the last lap, then he's going to win the sprint. And there he is coming around the corner in 5th place.
We come down to get the bell this time through. It's just on roughly 12 kilometres left to race. The gap is 67 seconds approximately. This group, they have to attack to get away from Caleb Ewan, so it's going to be a quick lap from them. If Cadel and Richie left it too late.
Little bit of a conversation here. It's probably Michael saying, how are you feeling? Caleb will probably say, I'm all right, I'm still excited. Then go back and keep out of trouble. I'll do the pacemaking. That's probably the tactic.
Well, it's Michael Hepburn who's got the full responsibility at this point, setting the tempo. Campbell Flakemore is coming forward. If he starts to work at the front, you know that BMC have given him the green light, and they lack confidence in the main group being able to come back. But Campbell's not working. He's slotting into second position, which is an indication his instructions at this point are to try and slow the group down.
And hope. It's a forlorn question, I think, now, in all honesty here. But Flakemore's taken second place. He's the world under-23 road racing champion. He's now on a world tour team this year, BMC.
This is back in the main peloton.
Yes, Matthew Heyman. First time we've seen Matty Heyman there. Former Commonwealth Games champion, number 16.
He's the captain on the road for Orica-GreenEDGE, and he appears to be pretty happy with the situation.
Yep.
Perhaps heading back to the team car to get some final instructions from the sports director.
Another top rider on the squad back there is Cam Meyer, but they're not doing any of the work now. They've got 2 riders up front. As you can see, the complete composition here of that breakaway. As they're heading down now towards the bell this time, and it's been a tough race, been a fast race, but they've never allowed the stars to penetrate the front. There's always been an attack and they have always been on the defensive.
It's all Michael Hepburn on the front. So Orica-GreenEDGE trying to save the national championships for them. It has been a disappointing campaign so far by their standards. And the standards for Orica-GreenEDGE are high. They're one of the very best teams in the world. They get the bell. 10.4 kilometres to race. The winner of the Australian title may well be coming from this select group of 9.
Hepburn, Flakemore, Jack Bobridge, Neil van der Ploeg, Angus Morton, Haussler, Ewan, Sam Spokes and Darren Lapthorne take this race on to the final lap, and I don't think they're going to let it go now.
12 months ago, Darren Lapthorne, who sits at the back of this group, was bold enough to attack the group of Evans, Port and Gerrans. He has to attack the group now because he cannot possibly beat Caleb Ewan or Heinrich Haussler in a sprint. This is the group stuck in the middle. They were in the breakaway, and it includes Peter Milostic, just Jack Anderson.
Through. Yeah, Milostic coming through. He was a time trial champion of Australia back in 2002. There he is, takes him around the corner, followed by Pat Lane there, just tucked in at the tail.
A good day out by Pat Lane.
Fabulous day out. And this is the last climb now, and that breakaway reduced to 9 men. So we're still waiting at the finishing line to see the chase group of Port and Cadell Evans and Michael Rogers. There's no way they can cross this gap now. The champion is in the bottom right of our picture there.
Hepburn has ridden like a champion of Australia in the individual time trial from last year. Now he's supporting Caleb Ewan. Hepburn is done. Caleb is on his own.
Job done. Caleb's got to watch everybody now, because on this climb, they're all going to hit him. They know he's got the fastest legs in the business, even though he's only 20.5 years of age.
And Campbell Flakemore in the red colours is doing all he can to slow this group down for the peloton containing Cadell Evans, who have just gone through the start-finish line, 1:35 behind.
That's not bridgeable, but they might see this action further up the climb, which will be about 1 kilometre in front of them. Gap of 1:35. Everybody looking at Caleb Ewan here, and a move coming, and he's strapped back on the attack.
It's Lapthorne who goes, the winner from 2007, and this is the same point that he made his move some 8 years ago. Lapthorne is turning the clock back.
Just coming up 32 years of age, Darren Lapthorne, as he starts the move. This is unbelievable here. He's played his card. Drapac so far have tactically ridden a perfect race, and now there's no reaction. Well, Caleb can't really chase because he would lose his sprint.
And they slowed down so much that Michael Hepburn has fought his way back, and now he's chasing to try and close down to Darren Lapthorne. Lapthorne will need to get across the top of the climb, which is still a fair way to go, with at least 15 seconds up his sleeve, surely.
The champion of 2007, he crossed the finishing line 6th there last year, Darren Lapthorne. He's a man on fire. He wears that gold and green on the sleeves of his racing jersey, depicting a past champion of Australia. And he's made his move, but you know that gap is closing.
It's not going to work, Lapthorne. Michael Hepburn is the man who has managed to bring it back.
Amazing.
And for a second time, he raises the white flag.
The value of teammates when you've got that sort of strength. He's closed the gap. He's put Caleb Ewan in the white jersey here back in the driving seat. Van der Ploeg on the front.
It must be about time for BMC to give the green lights to Campbell Flakemore, but Lapthorne goes for a second time.
And this time there's a reaction from Caleb Ewan. He was not having any of that a second time. Quickly onto the wheel, followed by Van der Ploeg.
The so-called sprinter matching the climber. Neil van der Ploeg is number 47 in the blue colours. Bobridge closes it down, and Angus Morton is still in with a chance with the pink helmet on.
Well, we'll know when he's coming, that's for sure, as he goes to the back now and keeps an eye. We call the man at the back the ticket collectors. He watches everybody on the train.
It's becoming a game of cat and mouse, and Campbell Flakemore is not moving. He is the under-23 individual time trial world champion.
Well, they've slowed it down, and in the distance is Michael Hepburn. Can he come back once more? We're heading up to the steep part of the left turn. Another move comes in. Lapthorne again.
For the third time, Lapthorne as they make the left-hand turn. Instantaneously, Caleb Ewan is into his slipstream.
This is where he's clever. He's not going to give that man any more room. He saw what he did the first time he attacked.
Phil, this is his first year in the professional ranks.
But this guy's a computer. This guy has got the head on his shoulders of a mature professional.
He's racing as if he's been in the peloton for 10 years. This is the peloton. This is Richie Port in the black colours with Cameron Meyer sitting behind him.
Richie Port, knowing he's on the last lap of the race, knowing he's 90 seconds behind the sharp end of this race now, and knowing too that the gold medal will have to wait another year.
He's got one, that's for the time trial, but the road race looks set to elude him. This group is really slowing down. Heinrich Haussler clearly backs himself in the sprint against Caleb.
But the only thing is, if they do keep slowing down like this, you know, 90 seconds is nothing on this climb. They could cross.
And you see the Drapac rider at the back is laying off them to take a run up to attack once again. And yet again, it is Lapthorne for a fourth time. Caleb pounces on him.
I'll tell you what, any professional says you make every attack count because you can't keep losing energy. But Lapthorne's done it 4 times to break this race up. We are 8 kilometres from the line.
And Michael Hepburn has not surrendered.
He's coming back.
He is fighting his way back, and if he gets there, well, that's an armchair ride for Caleb Ewan.
I'm sure Caleb is looking round there to see where he is. He knows that if they keep this stop-go action, Hepburn comes back in the action. How many times in our commentating career have you seen guys get back, attack and win?
And not too often. Michael Hepburn has been in a position like this, but it has happened plenty of times because, well, you figured you were gone, so you've got nothing left to lose. It does happen.
It does happen. And they've slowed right down. Angus Lyon is the man at the back in that helmet. Drapac here, still 2 of them.
Neil van der Ploeg at the front in the blue colours. Heinrich Haussler behind him. Campbell Flakemore for BMC Racing. Caleb Ewan the white colours for Orica-GreenEDGE. Bobridge in the yellow for the Budget Forklifts team. As now Campbell Flakemore's been given the green light, and he goes.
Flakemore launches an attack. The world under-23 champion is trying to go. They're all kicking again, and that young man is just dancing on his back wheel here.
And Caleb is attacking.
Well, I don't believe it. Caleb Ewan, silver medal in the under-23 Road Race Championship of the World in Ponferrada, Spain, last September, has gone with the power of a finishing sprint here. This is why he's that little bit better than riders of his age who are just sprinters. This guy can do it all.
Let's make a deal. Let's never refer to Caleb Ewan as a sprinter again, because he is far more than that. Caleb Ewan attacking on the climb. He goes underneath the Subaru arch, and it's Jack Bobridge who is trying to come across.
Well, he's got the Subaru mounting points, but that wasn't the meaning of the attack. It was to go all the way to the finish, because once he makes this left turn, he's on his way down to the finishing line. That was a terrific move, and he did what the others have tried all this last lap to do, and that's get away.
He has proven in the past he can sprint. We already know that. He's proven now that he can climb. Next one, prove that he can time trial through to the finish.
We might be about to be seeing this. This is back to the peloton, riding in the white behind Richie Port is Cam Meyer. They're still trying to get something out of this group so they can be free to race down the hill. But look at this now, we're coming together. Is that Jack Bobridge?
It is. Bobridge is on.
Bobridge, who rode so well to join the race when he won the title a few years ago and blew everybody away, so he finished on his own. Now he's gone up to the new boy on the block, and 2 of them, one a former champion and the world record holder over 4 kilometres, and we're just 6.7 from the finish.
This speaks volumes of the depth of Australian cycling. We've got our biggest team, Orica-GreenEDGE, they ride the Tour de France, joined by Budget Forklifts, who ride the domestic circuit, the Subaru National Road Series. There's a lot of strong bike riders in Australia, Phil.
Well, by the end of this month, Jack Bobridge hopes to be the holder of the world hour record, and he seems to have found sharp legs this week. He got the bronze medal in the time trial. That was an extraordinary performance against a class field there. Now, I wonder what Caleb Ewan is thinking now when he knows Jack Bobridge has joined him.
Fantastic. I've got company with plenty of horsepower.
Yes, and I can outsprint Jack. We'll see.
And here comes the chase. Neil van der Ploeg. Angus Morton is also there. They're coming back. Campbell Flakemore is in that group. And one rider from the Drapac squad. Sam Spokes perhaps still in there for them.
Yeah, I believe he's still there. As we're looking at 2 men. Jack Bobridge has done it all before, and he's been with the top teams. This young man's having his first full year with Orica-GreenEDGE as a World Tour rider. Ahead of him is probably 12 or 13 years of professional cycling, and we'll see him in the Tour de France one day for sure.
This group will come back together surely. We'll have 6 contesting the finish, and none of them with teammates. It makes it an even battle. They're caught. So Caleb Ewan and Jack Bobridge, they've been caught. Neil van der Ploeg leads them around the corner. Spokes, Flakemore and Morton.
We're still making our way down Fiskin now through the very, very fast tree-line descent, which means we'll swing onto the Geelong Road as a group. It's going to be very sorry we're on Gear Avenue here as Caleb looks, he watches everybody move, and that's another attack. This time Sam Spokes, the man of the match as far as we're concerned. He was attacking from the 2nd kilometre, he's still attacking.
If only they had somebody else up the road doing that for Drapac, and Sam's legs were a little bit fresher.
Still got to be Lapthorne to finish it off, I think.
But Lapthorne has been dropped. He's behind this group. He's somewhere in the middle between the main peloton and this leading group. Spokes goes again with Campbell Flakemore.
Nasty little climb before they turn left, and a good place to put on an attack and stretch them out, but they're all up to it. They're just gripping each other like limpets here.
And it's Bobridge who closes it down.
6 of them coming together. Now they'll just breathe over the top, then they'll make the left flick into Fiskin, then they make the descent down to Geelong, and then the 2 kilometres from the line, and it's a 70-kilometre-an-hour sprint.
Number 9, Campbell Flakemore. 41 is Sam Spokes. It's then Jack Bobridge. Caleb Ewan is next in line. The blue colours with Neil van der Ploeg. And at the back of the group, Angus Morton. He had 4 years out of the sport. We've missed him. Good to see him back.
Well, I tell you, he's back and he's on terrific form, Angus Morton.
He'll be riding in America in season 2015 with Jelly Belly. A former member of the Drapac
team in America, I might add. They're a superb team to race. The longest sponsorship in the United States, Jelly Belly.
So Campbell Flakemore, he came here with the responsibility of supporting Cadel Evans. He now has the big responsibility to try and get the gold medal for BMC.
Here we go, down towards the Geelong Highway for the last time.
Neil van der Ploeg, number 47, is quick.
Right.
He is a potential winner. And Heinrich Haussler has returned.
That makes 7.
He can win.
Haussler is a very dangerous sprinter. Never seen him race as well as this for a couple of years now. He rides for the Swiss setup, IAM Cycling. There's no opportunity now to attack. They're going to swing left, and there's going to be some cat and mouse. It may allow others to join back in.
It's all downhill through to the finish line. Once they get off Fiskin Avenue, they turn left into Geelong Road, destination Buninyong. 7 riders in contention.
A massive crowd has got down off the mountain already. Corporation used the shuttle bus service to bring them off as well, I understand. They're all down here now.
Sam Spokes has gone again.
Well, he will be a fitting champion the way he's ridden today, and Drapac will be happy with the conclusion of a victor on their team. 3 kilometres to go. They're going to have to reorganise. It's Haussler who's gone to the front to drive.
Heinrich is still in the chasing. Sam Spokes has opened up a little bit of a gap. BMC Racing, the rumour is they were desperately close to signing Spokes. They couldn't make the decision, Campbell Flakemore or Sam Spokes. They went with Flakemore. They might be upstaged by Spokes.
Spokes and Flakemore, sounds like a bunch of solicitors. Here we are, Sam Spokes looks over his shoulder, that's what he sees. The arm waving is the chief referee wants our cameras out of the way. Flakemore's attacked.
And Flakemore has got Caleb Ewan behind him. This is all playing into the hands of Caleb, the 20-year-old. The youngest rider in the race. Spokes has been caught.
Oh, my goodness me now. And what about Angus Morton watching it all happen and still sits here at the back?
Has not moved once.
No. And he could well deliver the winning blow. He's letting these boys. Now Van der Ploeg is gone as we make the left turn. It's the sweeper. Then you'll see 2 kilometres down to the finish.
Another former mountain biker. We saw Peter Mullins do it yesterday, who is a mountain biker. This time it is Neil van der Ploeg and Caleb Ewan again with all the responsibility to chase.
Well, if Ewan does win, he's using an awful lot of energy, keeping control of a very frisky group here. There's no one coming from behind now. The champion is in our camera lens, and it might be this man, as Van der Ploeg launches for Avanti as they race into the last 1.5 kilometres. Caleb Ewan crossing the gap.
Caleb is on him. Surely now Van der Ploeg with Caleb behind him. He sits up, flicks the elbow, cheeky move.
Wants him to come by and give him a hand, but Caleb doesn't need to at the moment.
They can't afford to be caught by surprise by Jack Bobridge. If he hits them, he'll be hard to reel in.
Well, Bobridge always said this is a very honest course. It produces an honest champion, and he's right. It's such a difficult course. The rain has stayed away. Everybody has not respected reputations here.
Oh, for the first time, I had a twitch from Angus Morton. 1 kilometre remaining.
And there he goes. Through on the inside, straight to the front, and they're right on him. And of course it is Caleb Ewan. Picks him up. Jack Bobridge number 10, Van der Ploeg 47.
This is Van der Ploeg's best chance. Stay on the wheel of Caleb Ewan. At least then he can take a run at him, and he won't be caught by surprise. Sam Spokes is not much of a sprinter. He's at the back in the red from Drapac.
Well, he's going to have to go early because he's at the back end, and so is Campbell Flakemore, just moving up on the shoulder of the black jersey there of Haussler. Bobridge is opening up at 500 to go.
A long way from home for Jack Bobridge. Campbell Flakemore sits behind him. It's then Caleb Ewan, and Heinrich Haussler has got himself in contention. He sits behind Caleb Ewan.
He's in 4th place, and he's chosen the fastest known wheel in this breakaway. Ewan is broken early, and look at this. Haussler has gone for him. Heinrich Haussler is shoulder to shoulder with the young superstar. Haussler is going to give this to New South Wales, and that's the first gold medal of these championships for New South Wales, and he is the champion of Australia, and that is an incredible result for Heinrich Haussler.
Heinrich Haussler, the only rider in the group that we said could possibly beat Caleb Ewan in a sprint, has proven that to be the case. He gets the win. Caleb is in 2nd position. Neil van der Ploeg will round out the podium in 3rd. What a moment for number 15. The boy from Inverell. He's spent so much of his career racing with a German licence, but he's very much a proud Australian. Now he's the proud Australian champion.
Well, Heinrich Haussler has won only 2 races since 2011, and now he's the champion of Australia. He is back, and he's looking as sharp. He looks sharp all the day. He never appeared to be breathing hard on the climb. Caleb Ewan did everything right, and what a result for Caleb Ewan. 20.5 years of age, and he is the silver medalist in the Elite Road Race Championship.
The youngest rider in the race. He was silver as well in the criterium. Cadel Evans, he has just come across the line back in the main peloton, and he finds himself just outside the top 10. The main peloton, they were led home by Steele von Hoff. Let's take a look at it. Jack Bobridge leading out with Campbell Flakemore behind him. Caleb Ewan goes, gets his nose in front, and instantaneously it's Heinrich Haussler challenging. A drag race at this point. Experience, endurance and strength. The horsepower of Heinrich Haussler gets over the top. He'll be wearing the green and gold colours for 2015.
Expect to see those in the Tour de France in the month of July as well. And Caleb Ewan beaten on the line, but a brilliant race by the youngster, and what an equally incredibly good performance from Neil van der Ploeg for Avanti.
A 3rd place for Neil. Cadel Evans in 11th position, and Sam Spokes, the first person to congratulate Campbell Flakemore, and Sam finished in 5th place. So Heinrich Haussler the winner, Caleb Ewan in 2nd, Neil van der Ploeg 3rd, then Campbell Flakemore, followed by Sam Spokes. Jack Bobridge was 6th. Spokes.
Sorry guys, Kathy. Sorry. You wait to see the photo finish. Oh, Ocean.
Scott, can you hear?
Scott, can you hear?
Okay. Just give me a cue for when you throw.
Go for it. You're recording.
Okay.
Go for it.
Just go for it.
Heinrich, you could see the emotion across the line. That was an amazing performance.
Oh, I can't believe it really. It's just the whole day, being in the first group, no one really wanted to work. Everyone was looking at each other. Then the next, I was already, pretty much already gave up. It's going to work for Dave. Then the group went again, and it was just like every climb was just suffering, coming back. And just in the sprint, it was unbelievable. It went perfectly. I was on Caleb's wheel. He was following me the last 2 laps, and I was thinking the whole time, oh shit, how do I get him off my wheel? So it just went out perfect. He had up actually pretty early, I thought, because it's a full gas headwind. And seriously, I mean, that sprint was like San Remo back then. I was just, the last 100 metres, I was just trying to get every little bit of energy out of my legs, and lactic acid was just pouring out of my ears. It's unbelievable. It's almost the best day of my life. I can't believe it.
I haven't seen that sort of emotion in your face after a finish line since Colmar winning a stage of the Tour de France.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you know. Since 2009, I've just had a lot of injuries, operations, coming back, you know, falling back down. Really worked hard this winter. Came out early here in December to train. And finally things are going good again. It's the best day of my life. I can't believe it.
We're just doing interviews now. Awesome.
Heinrich Haussler is the winner in Buninyong. What a performance it was. Caleb Ewan in second, Neil van der Ploeg third. A very emotional Heinrich Haussler as he went across the line. He's down with Scott McGrory.
Heinrich, you could see the emotion across the line. That was an amazing performance.
Oh, I can't believe it, really. It's just the whole day, you know, being in the first group, no one really wanted to work. Everyone was looking at each other. Then the next, I was already, you know, pretty much already gave up. It's going to work for Dave. Then the group went again. And it was just like every climb was just suffering, coming back. And just in the sprint, it was unbelievable. You know, it went perfectly. I was on Caleb's wheel. He was following me the last 2 laps, and I was going like, thinking the whole time, oh shit, how do I get him off my wheel? So it just went out perfect. He had up actually pretty early, I thought, because it's a full gas headwind. And seriously, I mean, that sprint was like San Remo back then. I was just, the last 100 metres, I was just trying to get every little bit of energy out of my legs, and lactic acid was just pouring out of my ears. It's unbelievable. It's almost the best day of my life. I can't believe it.
I haven't seen that sort of emotion in your face after a finish line since Colmar winning a stage of the Tour de France.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you know. Since 2009, I've just had a lot of injuries, operations, coming back, you know, falling back down. Really worked hard this winter. Came out early here in December to train. And finally things are going good again. It's the best day of my life. I can't believe it.
We're just doing interviews now.
The message to come from the performance of Heinrich Haussler, persistence. He fought his way back so many times. That was the moment that he squeezed onto the wheel of Caleb Ewan and put himself in a position to win.
Yes, Jack Bowbridge opening up the sprint there, but left far too long down to the line, and Caleb Ewan probably thought he got it when he went a little bit too early though. Heinrich Haussler dug deep here, went over the top of the youngster and held on for the green and gold jersey. That's a big moment in his career, and he's going to spend all summer in Europe wearing the colours.
What about that scream as he went across the line?
Absolutely.
And the crowd making their way down off Mount Buninyong. Haussler the winner, Ewan in second place, Van der Ploeg third. Was then Campbell Flakemore, Sam Spokes, he really did entertain today. Jack Bowbridge in sixth position, Angus Morton, good to see him back. It was then Adam Hansen, who just snuck away from the peloton for 8th. Steele von Hoff in 9th position. Simon Clark was in 10th place. And not on the list, 11th position, Cadel Evans.
Van der Ploeg, one stage better than last year. He was 4th a year ago, gets 3rd this time around and on the podium. That's a significant result for the Avanti rider there.
And again, it shows the depth of Australian cycling as one of the National Road Series teams. And Michael Hepburn, what a ride he put in. At Bell Lab, he was doing all the work he possibly could to protect Caleb. Didn't quite work out for Caleb, but a silver medal is a pretty solid outcome. Darren Lapthorne, he was so aggressive. He tried, you've got to give him that.
I think he hit them 4 times on the climb, and 4 times they fought their way back to him. He didn't quite have that little extra push, but he looked as though he was going to walk away with this at one stage.
Caleb Ewan, he's so quick to respond.
Yeah, the further up the mountain Caleb got, was more determined he was to let nobody get away.
Is this maybe the moment where Caleb Ewan lost the race? Spending that energy attacking across the top of the climb.
And starting to work, well, who knows? I mean, it's only a half a length in the sprint, but he got the gap here, and I think he probably argued with himself whether to push on and see if he could stay away. They caught him up, and and then they went again.
Sam Spokes, who tried so many times. Jack Bobridge, the man that won the title in 2011. He led out the sprints. He paid the price for it. He ended up finishing in 6th position. No mistakes made by Heinrich Haussler. He read it perfectly.
And he's on his own. He had no team, the same as Cadel Evans and Richie Port, really. And this time he's gone. And just about a length it was on the line for Heinrich Haussler. As you said, Matt, when he won in the Colmar in the rain, and that was his previous highlight of his career, but this will be better than that.
Well, he did say before that this is the best day of my life.
Yeah.
The emotion really starting to bubble over. Buninyong has turned it on once again. There was real fear about the weather conditions, but they turned out to be perfect for racing with that little bit of cloud cover.
I'm just glad to see the forecast in Australia as bad as the ones in Great Britain, because they gave us a terrible day today and it just never happened. Thank heavens. Thank goodness that the weather changed direction.
The presentations will be underway fairly shortly. The crowd is waiting in eager anticipation to see Heinrich Haussler step out to get that coveted green and gold jersey. It has been labelled the Battle of Buninyong, the green and gold rush. The spectators now are making their way onto the road because the last of the riders have finished. So they're moving the barricades aside so everybody can come and watch the presentation.
They're all outside now. The music is beginning.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the awards
So first up, they're calling the top 3 out onto stage. Neil van der Ploeg in the blue colours, Heinrich Haussler. As you mentioned before, he hasn't won too much since 2009, just a couple of wins since then.
He's been injured, things have not gone right for him. Maybe this is the start of a new era.
Well, Caleb Ewan, 2nd position today, just as he was on Wednesday in the individual time trial. But the bronze medal, you can see the smile already on the face of Neil van der Ploeg. Look at it.
Brilliant ride.
His brother Paul was in the early breakaway, and I'm sure his brother will be watching this with great pride.
Well, his brother's a big man, isn't he?
He is. So's Neil.
Gee, that last lap, I think we're all biting
Avanti Racing, great result for them. 2nd position, the silver medal. He rode with such maturity for a 20-year-old. Caleb Ewan. He won the under-23 race last year. He was the silver medalist in the under-23s at the World Championships. This is his first season up in the elite squad with Orica-GreenEDGE.
And 2 silver medals this week. He was 2nd to Steele Van Hoff in the criterium.
The new Australian champion from Inverell. A stage winner at the Tour de France. He'll be wearing green and gold throughout 2015. From Inverell, Heinrich Haussler. He summed it up in the interview. The emotion is spilling over. The best day of his life.
And he saved the blushes of New South Wales. This is their only gold medal of these championships. The championships they've so often dominated. Heinrich Haussler gets the gold medal to take to Europe now for his Swiss team. And Caleb Ewan, he goes there with 2nd place.
Malcolm Speed, the new president of Cycling Australia, is presenting the all-important jersey. And that's what it's about in cycling. It's about jerseys.
It is. And I just wonder what Heinrich is thinking right now as he looks down at that jersey.
Samantha McIntosh, one of the local councillors, her daughter Chloe was in the women's race.
Yes, and she's a terrific supporter, as indeed are all of the council here in Ballarat and Buninyong.
It will be a big celebration this evening for Heinrich Haussler. He's got the gold pan, he's come to Buninyong, and he takes away a gold medal and a green and gold jersey.
Our proud supporter here for many years now, Jeremy Cowan from Mars Elite Australia Championships. And it wouldn't be a podium without some champagne. And of course, the photos. Heinrich, Haussler, I think we've got to have a chat to you guys, the top three. Fantastic effort. What we saw today was a true European race. You've got this baby on for the next 12 months. How does it feel?
Oh, to be honest, I can't believe it. It's seriously the best day of my life. You know, since 2009, it's just been ups and downs, coming back, building up, getting down, building up. And this year, you know, during the winter, I've really worked hard. Come out early in December to Australia to get ready for nationals and down under. And, you know, everything's just falling into place, and it's just, seriously, it's the best day of my life. I don't know what to say.
That last lap, we're talking about what was left of that breakaway group. You then made contact on the descent. What was going through your mind then? Did you think, gee, I might be racing for minor placings, or did suddenly you get a lift in the morale as you got back on?
No, I knew I just had to pace myself on a climb. I couldn't go over the limit, otherwise I'd just blow completely. And
there he is, the winner of the 2015 Mars Cycling Australia Road National Championships, the new Australian champion. Tom, his coach, embracing. He looks like he might be happier than Heinrich, Phil.
I think for everyone, this is the start of a new era for Heinrich Haussler, a man who's podiumed in the Tour of Flanders. He's been second in Milan-San Remo, the longest single-day classic in the world. Then he had a dip in his career, then he came home in tears in Colmar in his stage victory in the Tour de France, and now this, the champion here in Buninyong. Big moment.
It should give him so much confidence going into the season. He's proven already just how good he is with those results that you referred to. If he gets his mojo back, so to speak, he'll win big races in Europe again.
The riders in Europe will have noted his name on top of the pile today in Buninyong, and they'll be marking him now when he goes over for those spring classics for sure.
His team will be delighted. They get invited to the Tour de France in 2014 on a wild card, predominantly because of the arrival of Sylvain Chavanel in that squad. Now they've got the Australian champion Heinrich Haussler, Caleb Ewan in second, Neil van der Ploeg third, then Campbell Flakemore, Sam Spokes, Mr. Entertainment today, and good to see Jack Bobridge in sixth position.
Simon Clark completing the top 10 there. Cadel Evans in his last championship just off the board there.
The Subaru King of the Mountains classification, that went to Will Clark ahead of Cam Peterson and then Brendan Canty. Clark and Peterson, both teammates from the Drapac squad. They tried today, Drapac. They played all their cards. They just weren't quite strong enough in the end.
Another memorable day in the streets of Buninyong, a little town here as part of Ballarat.
And the Jayco Intermediate Sprint, that was also taken out by Will Clark, courtesy of being in all the early breakaways. Heinrich Haussler was second, Luke Durbridge was third. So Will Clark, at the very least, he doesn't go home empty-handed.
Well, he led for 3 laps alone in the lead. That gave him the points he required to win that Jayco Sprint competition.
Cadel Evans in 11th position as we head down to Scott McGrory.
Fantastic, phenomenal performance.
Caleb, that was an incredible performance. You've come away with the silver medal, but you were certainly the strongest rider out there.
Yeah, I don't know if I was the strongest rider out there, but I gave it my all, and I really tried to keep that little group together in the end to make sure it came down to a sprint. And I was like Heinrich said, he had lactate coming out of his ears, and it was the same with me. I was just giving it everything I had in the end, and he was just a better rider on the day.
Well, what an incredible performance, though, in the sprint there. You must have felt like the entire world was against you. Everyone was racing against you, trying to get rid of you before that finish.
Yeah, you know, I knew it was the same scenario as last year in the under-23s. I knew no one wanted to really take me to the line, but you know, I had to sort of play it well and you know, not use too much energy coming down the hill to bring it all back together. So a lot of the guys were pretty good and you know, were chasing each other and it wasn't always entirely up to me.
What does it really mean, this Australian Championships? Do you get a little bit of fire in the belly now, knowing that you were so close?
Yeah. To be honest, I'm devastated. You know, it would have been such a dream start to my pro career to get the green and gold for my first year as a professional. But and to come so close, you know, it's really gutting. But you know, it happens.
Another year, 12 months of development. No doubt you'll be back, and you really want that one.
Yeah, you know, I'll come back here. You know, probably for the next, hopefully 15 years for my career, and hopefully one day I can get the jersey.
Well, fantastic performance, good ride by Heinrich Haussler, no doubt, and we'll go back to Matt and Phil.
Caleb Ewan, the silver medalist, just as he was on Wednesday night in the Criterium. Phil, we've learnt two things about Caleb today. He has class and humility.
Yeah, he's an absolute gentleman, and that may be his downfall. He's too nice a guy, but I don't think so. I think this man, as he said, he's got 15, 16 years ahead of him, and who knows, he might develop into a Tour de France winner. Time will tell. Look at this sprint finish here. He did everything right. It's hard to keep the race together at 20 years of age. Heinrich Haussler, the experience told in the end, and I'm rather pleased for Heinrich.
And those two were head and shoulders above the others when it came down to the sprint finish. There was a significant gap back then to Neil van der Ploeg, who gets the bronze medal. I wonder how Heinrich will sleep tonight.
Not very well. I think he'll be thinking of what the season will bring him.
Well, Ballarat has turned it on once again. Buninyong more precisely, which is just on the outskirts. Caleb Ewan, the silver medal, so close, but it's Heinrich Haussler who will celebrate. Highlight from the week of racing for you, Phil?
The arrival of Caleb at World Tour level and the delight for a good rider from Europe who's taking that jersey back to Switzerland.
There's been a lot to take away from these national championships. We've seen new winners grace the top of the podium, including Heinrich Haussler. Hope you've enjoyed the coverage. It's been a brilliant edition of the Mars Cycling Australia Road National Championships.
Well,